everybody. Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert. Week 2 officially underway here at the channel. Week 2 of college football going to be one of the biggest weekends of the entire year. And today, guys, we're here to break it down with you. Here to take your questions, your calls, your comments, talking about the week that's coming up and the week that just happened, because we can't disregard the madness of week 1. But welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, guys. We're so glad you could join us today on this Tuesday night live stream, something that, again, we're going to be doing every single Tuesday right here, 7 p.m. Central Time. Mark your calendars, put it in your phone, put a sticky note on the door. Whatever you got to do, you don't want to forget it. You don't want to miss it. Every Tuesday right here at the channel. So glad that you guys could join us today. Special shout out to the guys that are already here. Robert, Hunter5657, Austin Pruitt, Eddie Rose, good to see you. M-I-Z-Z-O-U, baby. Will Lou, I love that comment. We'll pin that one here in a second. And college football guy, good to see you. Week 1 officially in the books. And we have a lot to talk about with that before we kind of go into some week 2 predictions, some week 2 upset alerts. We're going to talk about that today. Anything else you guys might throw our way before we open the phone lines here in about 20 minutes or so. We'll get you guys in early as we have about an hour and a half, 2 hour long show, or however long we decide to go tonight. You never know. Depends on how good the conversation is. You know what I'm saying? But we're so glad, again, you guys could join us. As always, take a look at everything down across our ticker. It's just like ESPN in the flesh. Like, comment, subscribe, especially hit that like button, hammer that like button here on the stream so we can get more people to come join the nation, more people to come join the stream. It's kind of really boosts the analytics. Leave your comments. Make sure to subscribe. Check out the expert picks over on our website, thegridironexpert.com. We've got all that information down in the description below. Remember, we get to our goal for expert pick sign up this year. We do a live stream like this, except instead of going for 1 hour, 2 hours, whatever it may be, we go for 24. 24-hour live stream sounds pretty good to me, but we got to reach our goal. It's kind of an incentive on both ends there, and we're really looking forward to doing that. So help us get to that goal. Make sure to hammer that like button. Spread the word. Subscribe. Whatever you got to do. Let's continue to build RGE Nation. So I want to take we'll kind of really not waste any time. We start these live streams and we get through all the pleasantries and we, address everybody. I like my man Mitch. Good to see you. George's DM, our man Sam. Good to see you. Doggy, good to see you as well. I'm Flying Blind as well. And don't worry, we will address all of your questions and all of your comments. And we'll take your calls here later on in the show as well. So we got a full show left ahead of you. But we'll talk about week 1 and we'll talk about, I guess, what everybody is kind of addressing in the comments right now is the Clemson era. So I guess that's what we'll talk about, since that's kind of the most fresh thing on our mind after the beatdown that Clemson suffered in Durham last night. Yeah, Hunter, I'll tell you, I think the Clemson era is officially over. I really do. And I know some would say that's premature, but I don't think it is. If you look at the trajectory of Clemson football the last few years, it has not been good. They lost in the 2020 college football playoff, got annihilated by Ohio State. And then the next year, didn't even make the ACC championship game, didn't even, have a, shot at the playoff. Won 10 games still, but didn't make it. Last year, won the ACC, but still missed out on the playoff. And this year, opening up with a 28-7 loss to Duke. Now, Duke is a good team. I'm not going to dog the Blue Devils, right? I mean, this was a team that we knew had a lot of experience coming back, won 9 games last year. So you can't sit there and say, oh, Duke was horrible. This loss is worse than it really was, right? Duke's not a bad team. A lot of us had Clemson on upset alert entering Monday night. Just none of us, I think, really thought that it actually would happen. And if it did, I don't think anybody thought it would be that bad. Not at all. But I tell you this, I mean, it's crazy to look at what the fall of Clemson, right? It's crazy looking at it. You enter this year. Cade Klubnik comes in. People are calling him the next Trevor Lawrence, maybe even better than Trevor Lawrence. And he looks horrible. Garrett Riley comes in. We've got a new offensive coordinator. He's going to fix all the issues. It's going to be great. And it doesn't happen. The offense was atrocious. Couldn't anything going. Multiple mistakes, 2 fumbles inside the 10-yard line. Couple missed field goals in there. I think they shanked one, had one blocked. So if you really think about that, that's 20 points that Clemson left out there in a 21-point loss. kind of crazy to think about. And it should be noted, though, that I think Clemson probably would have been shut out had it not been for the Duke muff punt. If Jalen Calhoun doesn't try to field that punt, which is never been even attempted to field it to begin with, he doesn't attempt that. I don't think Clemson scores at all in the game, which is insane to think about. So, I mean, it was just downright bad. This Clemson defense that was supposed to be one of the best in the country looked lost. Defensive line really didn't generate any pressure on Riley Leonard. They had no answer for his mobility. I mean, it was just from top to bottom an absolute beatdown, an absolute dominating performance by Duke that propelled them now into the top 25. And honestly, at 21st, I thought that should be a little bit higher. I think they should be in the top 20 like we had in our official rankings that we put out earlier today. But yes, I do think the Clemson era is over. I think you got a team now that's 0-1. Playoff hopes are done, right? For Clemson to make the playoff, they're going to have to win out. They'd have to win every single game from here on out. That includes a game against Florida State, includes a game against Notre Dame, includes a game against North Carolina, who looked really good against South Carolina. And then that would require them to win the ACC championship against North Carolina again, Florida State again, whoever it may be. I mean, even though they get those games at home, it just doesn't look promising. And Clemson's just left searching for answers. And I don't know where you can find those answers. It's a really, really bad start. And I don't know if there's anywhere to go. You think anywhere to go would be up. I don't know if they can go up. Back-to-back double-digit win seasons is great. Missed out in the college football playoff both years. This year you miss out again. Eventually, you would think Clemson fans are going to get tired of this. Dabo's not going anywhere. The program's still going to be one of the ACC elites, but in terms of the standard that they have and the expectations they have, they're not meeting them, and something's got to change. It's really a shame to see it happen all so quickly. Shout out to our man Sam. Thank you, man, for that super chat. Really, really appreciate that. Hey, man, every bit counts. Every bit counts. And I like what you said there. DJ was not the problem. Looked great in his debut, and he did. DJ Uyunglele looked phenomenal in his debut with Oregon State. They torched San Jose State like we all expected, but he looked great. He looked like the DJ Uyunglele that we saw in those first couple games when he was at Clemson, in that Boston College game a few years ago, that Notre Dame game, even though they lost that game. How he looked in those games is kind of how he looked against Oregon State or with Oregon State. DJ wasn't the problem, and I like you saying that, and I like what a lot of other people are saying that too. I think they kind of used DJ as the scapegoat. Right? It was, he's bad. Like, DJ's not any good. The reason we're struggling and the reason we're not making the playoff and the reason our offense is not at the level we need them to be is because of DJ Uyunglele. As soon as we get a new offensive coordinator and our guy in there, meaning Kate Klubnik, we'll be fine. And clearly that was not the case. I think they kind of used, wrongfully so, DJ as a scapegoat. And it was a shame to see them do that because he's thriving at Oregon State. And Oregon State's going to be one of the top teams in the Pac-12 this year and could challenge for a Pac-12 championship. And I wholeheartedly believe that. So, yeah, DJ was not the problem at all. And it's sad that Clemson tried to – the fans did it. The staff did it. I think a lot of people just tried to use him as the excuse, and it wasn't it. And it really – what it feels like now is unless – I don't know how you want to phrase it. I mean, it feels like unless Dabo Swinney has a generational talent at quarterback, such as – I mean, you go back down the road. Who did they win national championships with? They won with Deshaun Watson. And then with Trevor Lawrence, two generational talents that are thriving somewhat in the NFL. They were pretty solid with Taj Boyd before Deshaun Watson, and then after Trevor Lawrence, I mean, even Kelly Bryant, they had some good years with Kelly Bryant. He wasn't even all that great. So, I mean, it just feels like unless they have the ultimate super team in Death Valley, in Clemson, they're not going to amount to playoff contenders. It's just not going to happen. So it is a shame to see. That was an ultimate shock last night. Again, even if you thought Duke was going to win, I guarantee no one thought that Duke was going to win by 21 points. This is a bad look for Clemson, but a great look for Duke. And honestly, I mean, I have nothing against Clemson, but I'll tell you what, I love the parity in the ACC right now. Florida State, without a doubt, the number one team, right? Florida State, without a doubt, the number one team in that conference. But you've still got North Carolina. You've got Duke, who's legit, can't afford to sleep on Pittsburgh. Miami could enter the mix if they take down Texas A&M this Saturday. Louisville, no slouch, although they did not look that great against Georgia Tech, but could start to build themselves up. Clemson's still not entirely out of the picture either. We're acting like Clemson's out of the ACC title race. They're not, but they have a lot of questions that need to be answered, and we're not sure if they can do that in such a short amount of time. They've got, 3 weeks to prepare for Florida State, 3 weeks until they play Florida State, and Florida State looked dang near unstoppable in that win against LSU. Unbelievable performance. Now a top 4 team in the country. So there's that. We'll keep touching on Clemson a little bit. I want to kind of go through some of the rest of our comments here. Just shout out again to Flying Blind, Scotty B, the Baylor King, Mike Myrick. What's going on? Good to see you. Glad to have you here, man. Eugene Murphy, good to see you. Our man Charles Lehigh, nice to see you. Sick world where Dabo made me a Duke fan, even for one day. I love it. I love it. Throw that up there. Yeah. Yeah, that's rough, man. I feel that. Paxton, good to see you. Oh, I wouldn't say the picks are suffering. I think we went 52-11 on the money line. We missed a couple of the games towards the end of the week for sure, but hey, 52-11 we'll happily take. No doubt about that. No doubt about that. But we'll bounce back. That's how it goes. Well, they say, right? It's a marathon, not a sprint. No doubt about that. Let's see. Joker NYC, good to see you. Doggy, nice to have you here. Again, Will Lou, appreciate you. Congrats on the Rutgers win, by the way. Big win for Rutgers over Northwestern. 17 points. Kind of nice for once to have Rutgers on the winning side of a blowout victory. So congratulations to them. 1-0 overall, 1-0 in conference play, and looking to have a pretty strong start. I mean, what do you got? Temple this week. Temple barely survived Akron. Virginia Tech, kind of a toss-up there. I mean, we've got Rutgers going bowling, man. We got to win. We got to win these non-conference games if they want it to happen. If we want it to happen, I believe they will. I genuinely believe they will. College football guy, good to see you. Go Heels. North Carolina, heck of a win. Heck of a win. Unbelievable victory. Let's see. Mark TR, Anthony James, good to see you. Fight on, baby. USC, good to have you here. I think it's the first time we've seen you this season, Anthony. Nice to have you. And let's see. Will Burrow, Mark, Glow Donato, B Swan. I do believe Rutgers will make a bowl game for sure. Thoughts on the Auburn-Cal game, Sam? That's going to be a fun one. I'm staying up for that one. That's the Pac-12 after dark, even though it's not a conference game. Cal looked good. I mean, I know it was just North Texas, but a team that had struggled to score quite a bit under Justin Wilcox, dropping 52 points on the road. That was a good start for them. That was a really, really good start for Cal. So I'm interested to see if they can keep up that offense against Auburn, who only beat UMass. So it's kind of a very small sample size. Really can't take much away from that win or from that game. I think I'm really interested to see how Auburn's defense stacks up against that Cal offense. Was the Cal offense a fluke? Was North Texas that bad? We're going to learn a lot about both teams here. Cal is not a Pac-12 contender by any means, but they are a bowl contender. They are a bowl contender. And getting a win over Auburn, I think people will start hitting the panic button. I think they start freaking out down the plains if California beats Auburn on Saturday night. I think that's a game that Auburn fans are expecting to win. And in a season where they need to win every winnable game on their schedule because of how brutal the SEC slate is. Still got to play Georgia, got to play Alabama, got a road game at Arkansas. I mean, everybody in the SEC West, obviously. And then, of course, drawing Georgia out of the East isn't ideal. So, yeah, I think they've got to beat California if they want to salvage that 6-7 win season that many of us are expecting. Because Auburn, I don't have Auburn as a legitimate contender in the SEC West, at least not this year. So that's going to be a big, big game for them. And I think it's going to be a lot closer than a lot of people thought it would be like a couple of weeks ago. You know, I think coming into the season, I think people were like, California is going to get murdered. And I wouldn't go that far. Would not go that far with that. Great question there. Great question there. Hey, Mitch, thank you so much, man. Thank you for that super chat again. So you and Sam coming through clutch with the super chats tonight. Pumped for the Cy-Hawk game. Yeah, we're actually going to talk about that game later on in the chat. And we're actually going to talk about that game tomorrow as well. Our week 2 prediction video coming out tomorrow right here on the channel. So if you want some predictions for some of the top games of the week, go check it out. If you want the spread picks for those games, check out the expert picks right there on the ticker. Go sign up for those. Link in the description below. We'll have the spread picks for some of the top games this week. And we feel really, really good about it. Going to be some big-time winners in week 2. So make sure to go sign up for those. But I do like the Cy-Hawk game. Iowa State. It's an interesting matchup, right? Neither team looked all that good in week 1. Iowa scored 24 points, which for them felt like 49, right? I mean, 24 points in a single game with a couple passing touchdowns. What they say, it was like the first opening drive passing touchdown they'd had since like 1991 or something. I mean, it was an unbelievable stat. So they're finally airing the ball out a little bit more. Cade McNamara looks solid. Iowa State, on the other hand, despite all of the suspensions due to the gambling allegations, looked solid as well, but still got outgained by Northern Iowa, which to me was a bit of a concern. Although Iowa could say the same thing. They got outgained by Utah State. Didn't allow a touchdown until about a minute and a half left, but still got outgained. But obviously one of the more underrated rivalries in college football, if I'm being honest with you. People don't give the Cy-Hawk Trophy game, the Cy-Hawk game, enough credit for how intense it is, how fun it is. I think a lot of people overlook it because it typically is a low-scoring, hard-fought defensive battle game, and for some reason people don't like that. I think, who was it? Yeah, B Swan 88 goes like final score is going to be like 10-7, like it was last year, right? Like people look at those low-scoring games and they go, "Oh, that was boring. That wasn't fun." I disagree. Yes, I know a lot of people like points and offense, but I love some low-scoring defensive games as well too. And I think we're actually going to see more offense in this game than you think. I really do. I think I give Iowa the defensive edge. Offensive edge is tough. I still almost lean Iowa that way as well, although Iowa State looked better than I thought they would offensively. They really did. So this is going to be, I think you're right. I think Iowa State could steal the W. We're going to have our prediction for that game tomorrow, so I won't tell you who we're picking yet. But that's going to be a very close game per usual, low-scoring game per usual. And unfortunately, it might get overshadowed by some of the bigger games on Saturday afternoon. And we'll talk about some of those here in a little bit because we got a great week 2 on deck. I mean, this will be one of the best weekends of college football all season long. And again, we'll break down some of those games here in just a few minutes. But great point and great question, Mitch. Paxton, can Baylor and Texas Tech both start 0-2? 100%. We'll have predictions on those games tomorrow as well. But Baylor getting upset by Texas State was a major shock. It's like, 26.5-point favorites. That was a huge, huge shock on Saturday. Now they host Utah, who may or may not have Cam Rising back. Even if they don't, I'm not too worried about that because Utah owns a significant advantage on both line of scrimmages. Baylor will be playing with a backup quarterback. Blake Shapen going to be out for at least 3 weeks. Utah decimated Florida in Salt Lake City. I'm not too worried about that game. And then Texas Tech, man, what are you doing? Like, Texas Tech, so much hype surrounding this program. Won 8 games last year. We're pegging you. Everybody's pegging you as a Big 12 sleeper, a dark horse. Maybe you could make the championship game. You get up 17-0 on the road at Wyoming. You're coasting, and then you lose? I mean, what are you doing? I mean, that was rough. That was rough if you're Texas Tech. I mean, you look like you had the game in the bag. Then you miss 3 field goals the rest of the way. Make any single one of those, you win the game. But you miss them all. Go to overtime. Looked like you were going to sack Wyoming with that blitz on 4th down and overtime. Instead, they connect for a touchdown. Wyoming ends up pulling off the win with that 2-point conversion. I mean, it was a great game, but a really, really bad start for Texas Tech. And now they host Oregon, who just dropped 81 points. Yes, it was on Portland State, but 81 points in a single game. And your defense couldn't even stop Wyoming. Yeah, Baylor and Texas Tech both could start 0-2, and I wouldn't have bet on that prior to the season. 1-1 for each of them, 2-1, 2-0, and 1-1. Sure, but like both 0-2, no, not a chance. But here we are. It's looking very, very likely. Again, you got to play the games. You never know. I think Texas Tech has a better chance of beating Oregon than Baylor has of beating Utah, if you want my honest opinion. If I had to pick one of those 2 games for those 2 teams to win, it would be Texas Tech over Oregon because Baylor just looked horrendous. Baylor looked bad, and now they got a backup quarterback in on short notice against a physical Utah team. I just don't like their odds there. I would side more with Texas Tech if I had to pick a winner out of those 2 teams. But yeah, a rough start for both. Let's see here. Yeah, UTSA and Texas all of a sudden a must-watch. Yes, it is. 100% it is. That Texas State, as you should say, Texas State. Yes, it is a must-watch game. That's going to be a fun one. Because here's the thing, talking about Texas Tech going 0-2, Baylor starting 0-2. Who would have thought UTSA might start 0-2? Going into the American Athletic Conference, people thought they might be the favorite to win it all, even above the likes of someone like Tulane. And they lose to Houston, which we predicted. We thought Houston would beat UTSA. So that was legit. That happened. But now they're facing the Texas State team that is no slouch. that a couple of weeks ago, we would have thought UTSA would blow out of the water. Now, after their win over Baylor, have to be a little bit more cautious. And that would be a big shock to see the Roadrunners go 0-2 for a team that, again, many thought could maybe challenge for a New Year's Six bowl game. They're probably out of that mix now after the loss to Houston. They lose to Texas State. They definitely are out of that mix. So keep an eye on that game for sure. Keep an eye on that game, no doubt about it. Let's see here. Robert, video predictions for this week? Yeah, we're going to have week 2 predictions out tomorrow. Week 2 predictions out tomorrow. Then our 2 game of the weeks, which of course will be Alabama and Texas and Ole Miss and Tulane. Those are going to be individual videos that come out later this week as well. So we've got 3 more videos posting the rest of this week. 1 Wednesday, 1 Thursday, 1 Friday. And then our recap, and then we start week 3. You know the drill. You guys know what we got. We're going to cover everything here for you at the channel all week long. Don't worry about anything like that. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be a really, really good week. No doubt about it. I'll tell you what we'll do now, though. We'll quickly get into our teams that are on upset alert, our past upset alert. Then we'll open the phone lines so we can get you guys to call so we can talk about those potential upsets. We can talk about week 1. We'll talk about week 2, whatever you guys want to throw out there. But we'll go ahead and bring that up. Teams that are on upset alert. Now, remember the rules from last year. This is not our pick, right? We're not saying this team is going to pull off this upset or this team is going to lose. And the rule to be featured in upset alert, we are taking a double-digit underdog and saying that this double-digit underdog could beat their opponent. This double-digit underdog could win the game outright. That is what we are saying. Those are the rules when it comes to upset alert, which we'll do again every single Tuesday here on top of everything else. So we're not picking these teams. We might be. You got to sign up for the expert picks to see those. But it's just teams that are double-digit underdogs that could possibly pull off an upset. So upset alert number 1, Vanderbilt at Wake Forest. Vanderbilt at Wake Forest. Now, I know a lot of people are going to be surprised by that. Might be shocked by that. But this is a Wake Forest team that, without Sam Hartman, didn't look all that great last week. They played Elon and won by like 20 points, but benefited from a lot of turnovers, a lot of Elon mistakes. That game should have been a lot closer than it really was. I still have a lot of faith in Mitch Griffiths. I still have a lot of faith in Dave Clawson. I think Wake Forest across the board, the season's going to be okay. But Vanderbilt has the passing attack with A.J. Swan to put up some decent numbers, has the opportunity to challenge Wake Forest. The defense looked a little shaky at times. They allowed Hawaii to crawl back into it back in week 0. Wasn't a fan of that. But now they've got an extra game under their belt. They've got 2 games under their belt as compared to Wake Forest. A lot of people picking Vanderbilt to pull off this upset outright. I don't know if they can actually do it, but I do think they can hang with the Demon Deacons. This is not the same Wake Forest team you saw last year, not the same one you saw 2 years ago when they made the ACC championship game. They're taking a little bit of a step back. And if they're not careful, early morning game in Winston-Salem, Vanderbilt could come in there, pop them in the mouth. If Vanderbilt can get a couple of quick scores, quick touchdown on the opening drive, 10 points, 14 points, something like that. They get out there early. Watch out. Watch out. Things could get very interesting on the earliest game on Saturday morning. So Vanderbilt is our first team that could pull off a massive upset in a way on Saturday. Number 2, our man Matthew Hazelhorst was there. Here, he probably wouldn't like this pick, but watch out for Troy. Watch out for Troy. This is a team, guys, that won the Sun Belt last year, is riding what is it now? 11-game win streak, something like that. I mean, I think they started like 2-2 last year, then won out the rest of the year, won in week 1. Now they've got Kansas State. Remember, last year, Kansas State fell to Tulane at home. And that was kind of the beginning of Tulane's rise. Like when Tulane beat Kansas State, that kind of put the nation on notice. And they kind of ran the table for the most part after that. Ended up making the Cotton Bowl, beat USC. So now you look at a Troy team that returns a good part of their offense, returns their quarterback, returns their leading rusher, has a stingy defense, facing a Kansas State team that shut out Southeast Missouri, so not the biggest win in the world, but still a shutout to shutout. Troy could play Kansas State a lot closer than people think. They're just as physical as the Wildcats, and I don't think they're that far off offensively. I think they can hang with Kansas State offensively. Wildcats have home field advantage. They are much bigger. They are more physical. They've got better experience up front, but we have seen them struggle in these type of games before. Troy, definitely not a team you can afford to overlook. This is a team that, again, played really good ball down the stretch. Really good ball down. I mean, the only 2 losses last year were to Ole Miss by like 18 points, Really wasn't that bad of a loss. And then App State on a Hail Mary at the end of the game. Troy should have beat App State. Troy should have finished with one loss last year. Maybe they would have been a group of 5 representative in a New Year's Six Bowl. Who knows? But regardless, watch out for this game, guys. This game has a potential to be closer than you think. Kansas State obviously in a better spot at this point than they were last year when they played Tulane. Actually ranked team, top 15 team, won the Big 12, got a lot going for them. But Troy will hang with them at least for a half, if not longer. Coming up next on this one, Texas State, UTSA. I think it was our man Anthony that kind of came out and said that a second ago, which I think, let me pull that back up. Make sure that was him. Yeah, I think it was him that said that this is a must-watch game, Texas State and UTSA. And our man Anthony also hooking us up with some Venmo appreciation. Thank you, my guy. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate that. I mean, look, everything counts. Goes a long, long way. So, Anthony, thank you for that Venmo. That stuff is down in the description as well. Really, really appreciate you and your support, and appreciate you being one of our USC reps, my guy. Really, really appreciate that. But I like what you said earlier, Anthony, about Texas State and UTSA. This is a potential game that we need to watch out for. It is. This is a double-digit underdog Texas State team that, keep in mind, before they beat Baylor, was going to be over a 21, 24-point underdog, now has shifted to under 2 touchdowns. Take with that as you will. Maybe you still ride with UTSA because you're not buying into the hype from the Bobcats, who still, despite beating Baylor, allowed over 500 yards of offense. Or maybe you go, you know what? I like what TJ Finley's doing. I like what GJ Kine's doing in his first year with Texas State, what he just did at Baylor last week. I'm going to ride with them. I'm going to give them the edge here. I think maybe they can cover. I think maybe they can win. Who knows what you're going to go with there? You'll find out where we go with those expert picks. But this is a game where, again, we just mentioned it. UTSA has the opportunity, not in a good way, to drop to 0-2. And that would completely derail their shots of a New Year's Six Bowl berth. They could still win the AAC in their first year. That didn't take that away. But their shot of becoming one of the top teams as a New Year's Six team, it's out if they lose this game to Texas State. The Bobcats, on the other hand, they win this game. They're 2-0 with huge wins over Baylor and one of the top teams in the American, and they find themselves in the mix of a legitimate Sun Belt title contender. Yes, I will say that. If they can win both these games, they should be taken seriously in the Sun Belt. So watch out for Texas State over UTSA, not just against the spread, but as an absolute outright upset. Great point by Anthony there. And then our final potential upset team that could be on upset alert, and I know people are going to think it's ridiculous, SMU against Oklahoma. Oklahoma, to me, is on upset alert. Now, people are going to be like, how? I think it was Will Burrow a second ago. He comes up here and he goes, what do I think about Oklahoma's performance? Well, I thought it was phenomenal. I mean, you beat a team 73-0. You beat Arkansas State 73-0. But Arkansas State's garbage. Arkansas State's absolute garbage. Butch Jones will be fired by the end of the year. That doesn't tell me much. What this shows me, SMU is a team that can hang with Oklahoma offensively. A-State never had an opportunity to hang with Oklahoma. SMU can. Preston Stone, the Stone Age for SMU, that is an offense that will be one of the better offenses in the American, and an offense that can hang with Dylan Gabriel in Oklahoma. We don't know too much what to expect from OU, right? 6-7 last year, should have been better than that record. Everybody's getting high on them because they beat a crappy A-State team by 73. This is a legitimate test for them. This has an opportunity to be a high-scoring game. And if Oklahoma's defense really isn't up to par, they weren't last year, if they haven't bounced back, SMU will exploit that. SMU will put points on them. And I would not be surprised in the slightest bit to see this within a one-score game, or at the most 10 points heading into the fourth quarter, where SMU still finds themselves in this game in the fourth quarter and giving Oklahoma a much tougher test than they want or anticipated. So watch out for SMU, because if SMU pulls off this win, the whole world's going to explode. College football is going to explode, because if Alabama beats Texas and SMU beats Oklahoma, the Big 12 is going to be in shambles. I mean, it'll be in absolute shambles. Who is going to lead the Big 12? TCU got beat. Texas Tech got beat. Baylor got beat and could drop to 0-2. I mean, who is going to be that favorite in the Big 12 if these two teams start to lose? And will the Big 12 even have a legitimate chance to get someone in the playoff if both these teams were to lose in week 2? Again, SMU beating Oklahoma it is a bit of a stretch. We're not saying it's going to happen, but we're saying to watch out for it, because this is a true test for the Sooners, their first true test of the year. And if that defense, again, has not improved the way they should, and the way you'd think under Brent Venables, the Mustangs will exploit it. This game could be closer than people think. Again, they win this game, man, Big 12, what happened? What happened? I mean, seriously, really excited for it. So there you go, guys. Those are the teams that are on upset alert for this weekend. Again, the rules are, I see some of you guys talking about that. Yes, obviously, Ole Miss and Tulane. Tulane could pull off the upset against Ole Miss. Alabama and Texas. Texas could beat Alabama and pull off that upset. Those would be considered upsets for sure. But based on our requirements for upset alerts that we do in these live streams, they have to be double-digit underdogs. And as our good man Charles Lehigh said, Ole Miss and Tulane, that's a single-digit spread. Alabama, Texas, that's a single-digit spread. So while they could be upsets, they're not going to classify in this thing, in this special that we do on the live stream. So thank you very much for that. All right, you know what we're going to do? We're going to go ahead and open up the phone lines. We've delayed it long enough. Let's get it going. Let me make sure everything is set on there. Perfect. Yeah, let's get it going here. Open up the phone lines. Give us some calls, whether you want to talk about week 1, week 2, your personal problems, some relationship troubles, whatever you've got going on. We'll get you covered. Give us a call at 870-586-6624. We'll take calls for about the next hour or so and then wrap up with comments and, of course, filling in with plenty in between. Let's see. Again, Anthony James, appreciate you and that support. Thank you so much for that Venmo. Dat Dude BP, what's going on, Steven? Good to see you, man. Enjoyed talking with you earlier today, and as always, man, go Heels. Congratulations on the big win. I agree with you. The Heels will easily defeat App State. Easily will defeat App State. App State is going to be good, one of the top teams in the Sun Belt, but not quite enough to take down UNC. Oh, hold on here. I think we got, let's see. We had 2 calls coming in at one time. I'm actually not sure which one I answered here. We got, is this Hunter?
Yeah.
Hey, what's going on, Hunter? How you doing, man?
Doing good. I got a ton of questions for you that I've been dying to talk about. So, yeah, let's fire some of them up.
Hit me, man. Let's go.
Last year I asked you this question, and I asked you about Coach Prime and the Colorado Buffaloes, and you said that you don't believe in them and that you don't think that they're going to be good this year. So I want to get another take on that after what you saw against TCU. Yeah,
no, great question. Look, man, people are starting to believe, right? That's the whole motto now behind Colorado is I believe, we believe, and I'm starting to believe. It's one of those things where Colorado obviously greatly exceeded expectations last week. I didn't have a whole lot of faith in Deion coming in, at least in year 1. I thought he would build the program up. I thought it would take a little bit of time. But when you do a major roster overhaul that brings in like over 50 transfers and over 80 new players combined, didn't really expect them to go on the road to be the national runner-up despite some of the guys they lost. But look, Shedeur Sanders is the real deal. Travis Hunter is the real deal. He's showing why he was the number 1 overall recruit for a reason. And I'll tell you what, Hunter, yeah, I'm buying into what he's selling. And if they beat Nebraska this Saturday, and there's a very good chance they can, Boulder is going to be rocking on Saturday. If they beat Nebraska, they will start 3-0 because they'll beat Colorado State. And the possibility of Colorado making a bowl game in his first year is not entirely far-fetched. So yeah, I guess I've changed my tune a little bit, man, because I'll admit when I'm wrong. I didn't think it would pan out in year 1, but he is definitely proving the doubters wrong.
All right, and the second question is, obviously Clemson lost last night. It was a terrible performance by both sides of the team, defense and offense. But I want to ask you, who's to blame at Clemson? Because we got DJ out of there. He's transferred, and we're still not performing at the highest level that we can. So I just want to get your opinion on that and see who's to blame at Clemson.
That's a loaded question. It's funny because the last couple of years, I think the blame's kind of been shifted around quite a bit. It was, we're gonna blame DJ Uiagalelei, and then last year they lost both of their coordinators. Tony Elliott went to Virginia, Brent Venables went to Oklahoma, so it was like, We're gonna blame the failures on the new coordinators. We're gonna blame the offense on poor play calling by Wes Goodwin, and obviously the addition of Garrett Riley was supposed to go in and fix that, which was something. I want to be honest with you, Hunter. I think the blame solely has to be put on Dabo. I really do. I think it has to. You've got to, as a head coach, you've got to take full responsibility for the blame here. And as Sam kind of came back and said, people tried to blame DJ Uiagalelei for their issues. He was not the problem. He clearly was not the problem. And Dabo has kind of really made interesting comments in years past. Dabo has always been adamant about not really utilizing the transfer portal. He has kind of been very stubborn in the sense of, I'm not going to adapt with the times. And Clemson has been left behind. Teams like Florida State, North Carolina, teams in their own conference have utilized the transfer portal big time. Dabo really hasn't wanted to use it, hasn't made an effort to use it, and that has really messed Clemson up quite a bit. Then he comes out yesterday and was talking about the offense and said, we brought Garrett Riley in here to run the Clemson offense, not his offense. So it makes you kind of wonder if Dabo even gave Garrett Riley full control over the team, over that side of the ball. So I think Dabo has – I don't know exactly what his issue is. I don't know if it's an ego thing. I don't know if it's a stubbornness thing, an inability to adapt. But ultimately, I think he's got to be the one to blame. This all has to fall back on him.
All right, I got a few more questions, but we'll talk about Ohio State struggling against Indiana. They struggled hard against them, and I want to get your opinion about that. Do you think that Ohio State's trying to starting to fall, like Clemson a little bit, starting to fall off a little bit, or do you think it's just a little hiccup in week one?
I wouldn't go to the point where they're looking like Clemson. I mean, it's still a team that, I mean, I know in a way isn't a Clemson situation because they was last 2 years. Well, they made the playoff last year, and lost, but slipped in without winning the Big Ten. So they haven't won the Big Ten the last 2 years, which is disappointing for their fan base. Obviously, the game against Indiana was not impressive at all, only winning by 20 points, which, many would say 20 points is good, but not the way the Ohio State did it. I wouldn't start to panic if I was Ohio State until they start losing the big games. And Ohio State has like 3 or 4 games on their schedule that's going to define their season, which sounds like a lot, and it is. I mean, they got the road game at Notre Dame, which is huge, the home game against Penn State, the road game at Wisconsin, and then Michigan. How they fare in those 4 games is going to dictate the year. And I'll tell you right now that, if I had to predict those games after watching Ohio State, I wouldn't have them winning many of those. Ohio State would not beat Notre Dame right now. They would not beat Michigan right now. They would not beat Penn State right now, and Wisconsin's a bit of a toss-up. So I think they have time to work it out. That's kind of what we talked about with this quarterback issue. The talent's there for Ohio State, and luckily their next 2 games are against Youngstown State and Western Kentucky. So those 2 games should be easy wins for Ohio State. Gives them an opportunity to work through Kyle McCord and also Devin Brown. They're going to play both this week against Youngstown State. Gives them an opportunity to work through both their quarterbacks and finally settle on a starter before they play Notre Dame. That's when the true challenge comes along. And so I'm not going to go as far to say they're looking like Clemson and they're in a similar spot as Clemson. But if Ohio State goes on the road to South Bend and gets the break speed off them against Notre Dame, then, yeah, we might be able to start having that conversation.
I got 2 more questions. Let's talk about College Game Day, Week 2, Texas versus Alabama. The rematch that, frankly, I'm looking forward to. I think Texas is going to pull it off at Tuscaloosa. But I want to get your opinion on that.
Yeah, no, look, no doubt that's where game day should be. I wasn't surprised that's where they decided to go. It's going to be a phenomenal matchup. I really do. I'm very, very excited for it. We got our prediction for that game coming out on Thursday. So we'll have a full prediction video out for Texas and Alabama on Thursday. The biggest storyline I'm want to look out for is, things have changed, right? We can't base everything off of last year. But obviously, I do believe that Texas would have defeated Alabama last year if Quinn Ewers doesn't get hurt. I will stand by that. So now Quinn Ewers, in theory, should be fully healthy. He hopefully does not get hurt in this game. But it now is in Tuscaloosa at night. And I feel like this is an opportunity for Nick Saban to make a statement. All offseason we've heard that Alabama is going to be down. Alabama is going to struggle. Alabama isn't going to be nearly as good as they have been in years past. And everybody's been saying Texas is going to come in and win this game. And you know that Alabama has been using that as bulletin board material. So that's what I'm really interested to see. I'm very curious to see, how does Quinn Ewers fare against this defense? and how fast of a start does Alabama get off to? Because Jalen Milroe is the man. He's going to be the starter in Tuscaloosa for the rest of the year. They have finally settled on that quarterback. It's going to be a really, really good game. I think it's going to be a relatively close game for a while. And again, we'll share our prediction on Thursday, but this is by far the game of the week in week 2.
All right, my last question. I got my sleeper game being Colorado against – who are they playing again? Hold on, give me a second. Colorado versus –
Got Nebraska?
Yeah, Nebraska. I couldn't figure it out. It was either Rutgers or Nebraska. Colorado versus Nebraska. That's my sleeper game for this week. Because I don't know, Nebraska. I got faith in Nebraska this year.
Look, Nebraska looked better against Minnesota, and probably should have beat Minnesota. I mean, had a very, very close play at the goal line that was ruled not a touchdown. And then instead of getting a field goal, Jeff Sims threw interceptions. He threw 3 interceptions in that game against Minnesota. Many of them costly, many of them deep in, or a couple of them deep in Minnesota territory. So Nebraska missed a lot of golden opportunities to beat Minnesota and kind of generate some excitement around this team. But instead, it was another one possession loss, another blown second half lead. It was a heartbreaker for Nebraska fans. This game against Colorado is really a tough spot for Nebraska because Colorado's hyped. It's the first game in Boulder. The stadium's going to be rocking. Boulder's going to be rocking. Can Nebraska offensively match Colorado, a team that put up over 500 yards on the road against TCU? Shedeur Sanders over 4 touchdowns, over 500 passing yards. Can Nebraska match that? Jeff Sims can't match that. He just simply can't. And I don't expect Jeff Sims to play that clean of a game against Colorado's defense. But conversely, Colorado's defense was horrible. They got the stops when they needed them, but they were really, really bad. And Nebraska rushed for over 180 yards against Minnesota. And Colorado's weakness is up front. So it's really a battle of Colorado's passing game and then Nebraska's run game against that Colorado defense. It's going to be a very close game. I think it's going to be relatively high scoring in Boulder. Again, we'll have our prediction for that game coming out tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. But Nebraska, if they do start 0-2, and our man Eddie, we got his comment pulled up, if Nebraska does start 0-2, fans are going to be getting pretty restless. That's not the start that Matt Rule needs during his time in Lincoln. You can't afford to come in and go 0-2 right out the gate, but that's looking like a very realistic possibility.
All right, well, I just got one throw-off question. Talk about the Pac-12 making one last stand before they go under. 13-0, week 1.
Yeah, no, and Hunter, we're going to let you go. We just had a call in, so we want to get them on hold, but I'm going to answer this question, but I appreciate your call, man.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, that's a man, Hunter 5657. First caller ever on the Gridiron Expert. He's always great. Comes in straight to the point, gets it done. I love it. But great point by Hunter. Pac-12, last year of existence, goes undefeated, kind of makes a statement and makes you wonder, like, man, it's a shame that we're disbanding, right? So it's a shame that the whole conference is falling apart because they had some big statement wins, right? I mean, Utah taking down Florida, dominating fashion. That was a big win for them. And now they're getting our caller. We'll bring them in. But this is a very good looking conference right now. Oregon State looked good. Washington State looked good. Washington over Boise State was in dominating fashion. USC obviously, Oregon dropping 81. So this is obviously a conference that has a lot of talent, and it's a shame that this is the last year that we're going to see them all together before teams go to the Big Ten, teams go to the Big 12, and things like that. So this is going to be a very, very interesting next couple of weeks. See if they can continue to dominate in conference or in non-conference play, and then obviously how this conference shapes out. Who's going to win it? I know USC is a heavy favorite, but is their defense going to hold them back? Is Oregon going to be able to get over the hump and finally get there? Is Washington going to be a playoff team? What's Colorado going to do? Are they going to fall apart when they hit conference play? Remember, their first 2 conference games are against Oregon and USC. They face 2 of the top teams in the conference in back-to-back weeks. How does Colorado fare in those? So a lot of question marks, but if you remember back in the preseason, we said the Pac-12 will be arguably the best and most entertaining conference in the country, and right now they are definitely proving that to be true. All right, we've got another caller here. Who's with us?
Hey, my name's Lawboat.
Who is it?
Lawboat, Lbert.
Hey, what's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm going. How about yourself?
Hey, doing good. Thank you for the call.
No problem. So, my sweeper game is also probably going to be Colorado versus Nebraska because let's say after what happened to Colorado, like teams get like really hype about it, then they can always lose the middle of next week.
Oh, so you're thinking that maybe Colorado is gonna kind of have a bit of a letdown game. That they're getting a lot of hypes around them from the winner. You think they might? You think they're probably going to lose to Nebraska?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, it's one of those. That's the beauty of college football, right? It's always a tough spot to be in. In college football, it's hard to win, right? It's like you win you win a massive game, and I think they hang up. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, still got him. All right. Yeah, you win a massive game, and you risk having that hangover, that little riding the high and the hangover. You lose a game, and you risk being hungover and down on your luck. So it's really hard to string together consecutive victories, especially after a massive victory. But you make a good point. Colorado could be riding that high, but I think Deion Sanders, I like what he's doing. I think he's going to have this team focused. People did not give Colorado a fighting chance against TCU, and he went in there and defied the odds, and I think has this team buying in. And that a team that has fully bought in to what their coach is selling is a very, very dangerous team. So Colorado, Nebraska, the line is very low for that spread, very low from that. It's fluctuated 2 points, 3.5 points, somewhere around there. But this is going to be a very close game, a very high-scoring game, I think. Wouldn't be surprised to see either team win. If Colorado wins, not going to be shocked. If Nebraska wins, not going to be shocked. But I agree with you that Colorado does need to be mindful of the upset here.
Yeah, it's like one of these things. It's like how last with TCU after the beat Michigan, they got one over with Georgia.
Yeah, no, for sure. Very, very, very similar. I mean, Georgia was just on a TCU wasn't hungover from that Michigan game. Georgia was just not going to lose to anybody. But I do understand the concept there.
So, what do you think about the AP poll 3 hours ago?
The AP poll was not the worst thing in the world. Obviously, a handful of mistakes, and we'll touch more on that here later on the show. We actually do have quite a bit of thoughts on that.
I think I also got Texas in the Alabama game because so many things went kind of their way, but the West kind of screwed them, and the basically collectively the Gators had the next field goal. So I think Texas goes to get revenge for versus Alabama.
You think Texas will beat Alabama?
Yeah, so
I think it's a bold prediction, but I mean they probably should have won last year. I agree. There were some questionable calls down the stretch. If Texas had sacked Bryce Young and not allowed him to escape, Texas wins that game. If Quinn Ewers doesn't get hurt in that game, Texas wins that game. So a lot of things that just one thing goes Texas' way and they pull off the upset. Who knows what we're talking about right now? But now tonight game in Tuscaloosa, Alabama's defense is legit. Although they do have some questions in the secondary, some injuries there. So definitely some things to keep your eye on. But this is, I mean, again, the game of the week without a doubt, and hopefully it's going to live up to that hype.
Yeah, and also I think the most important game of the year I would probably say one that we like Tennessee versus Georgia, about one like Bama versus LSU, because SC division on the lines and like players on the line. So
yeah, and we're actually getting another call, man. So we're gonna let you go. We will make sure to address that for sure.
All right, see you. Have a good night.
Thank you for the call, man. I appreciate it. All right, great call, great conversation there. Whoever's been trying to call us, we apologize. Give us a call back. We want to make sure we get you on. He mentioned, I think it was LSU and Alabama with major implications for the SEC and the playoff and things like that. Now, depending on what happens with Alabama and Texas week, now a much bigger game for LSU than Alabama. LSU has no room for error following that beatdown against Florida State. And we're going to take this call right now, and we'll get back to the chat here shortly. All right, you were on the Gridiron Expert. Who do we have with us?
This is Lance. I watch your show all the time, bro.
Hey, Lance.
Thank you. I just want to say just a couple things. I'm thinking the sleeper game of the week is going to be Texas Tech versus Oregon. I think there's a chance Oregon might slip up next week. And for the other college that we're talking about, the Nebraska versus Colorado game, Nebraska's in trouble. For one, I don't think Nebraska can pass that good. And all Colorado's going to have to do is focus on stopping that quarterback from running the ball. But basically, he was the main one moving the offense with his legs. And for the Texas and Alabama game, Texas is in trouble too, because if you've been watching ESPN over the week, you've been seeing the formation that was hurting Alabama last year, which was when they were in 8-man protection and they would have a 2 receiver set to the same side, and they would send I forgot what the receiver's name is, but they would send him most, and he was running different routes off of that formation every single time. It's not happening this year. So I just want to see what your thoughts were on that.
Yeah, well, first, all great points from the first point to the last point. I like the Oregon-Texas Tech game a lot. That's a game that I really wish was actually going to be a top 25 matchup. I felt like it should have been had Texas Tech beat Wyoming. So it's one of those things where it's like, I think a lot of people could be down on Texas Tech because of the loss to Wyoming, but this is still a team that we were hyping up just like 2 weeks ago. So you have a good point. Like, Oregon cannot afford to overlook the Red Raiders just because of what happened in Laramie on Saturday. So very good point there. As for the second point with Colorado and Nebraska, I agree with you. I do think Nebraska is in major trouble, and I think Dion, one of the greatest of all time at his position, a defensive-minded guy, is going to go in there and have a great game plan in terms of stopping down Jeff Sims. It was one of those things. Lance, it's a great point you made. Nebraska was moving the ball really only because of their dual threat quarterback. The mobility from Jeff Sims was the reason they were moving the ball so well. And even then, they still couldn't get the ball in the end zone that often. I think they ran him over. He had at least over 20 rushing attempts, roughly, in that game against Minnesota. And that's just not sustainable for a quarterback for an entire year. Every now and then, sure, but to expect to run your quarterback that many times in a game, it's not good. And obviously, he's a guy that doesn't make the best decisions. 3 interceptions. He had issues with that at Georgia Tech. So you're right. I think if Colorado finds a way to contain him in the pocket, he's not going to beat him through the air. Shedeur Sanders owns the significant advantage in the passing game. Colorado, to me, owns the significant speed advantage. So obviously, this game is ultimately going to come down to defense on both sides. And ultimately, if you're looking for an X factor, it's going to be home field advantage. I mean, you think this is a Colorado team that sold out their spring game. They sold out a spring game. Imagine what it's going to be like for a first home game, now nationally ranked against an old Big 12 rival. A lot of momentum, a lot of hype surrounding the team. Dion's first home game, it's going to be electric. So excellent point there. And then finally, to answer your last question, Texas and Alabama. Correct me if I'm wrong. So you were saying that you feel very confident in Alabama. Is that correct?
I was so confident because I saw the way that Texas was moving the ball on them last year, and they were just using one formation.
Right.
And they don't have that same running back this year that'll be able to pick up those first downs for them. I don't think so. I don't think that it's going to work again this year. And like you were saying earlier, I think that Nick Saban's going to make an example of Texas this year.
Yeah, I feel like this is one of those games where I feel like you've kind of angered the beast, right? Everybody's hyping up Texas. Everybody, I think, is almost hoping for a Texas upset over Alabama. They want Texas to win this game. And Saban's over here like, look, we never left. Like, I know we didn't make the playoff last year. I know we had quarterback questions all offseason, but like, this is our house at night, which plays a role here. And you're right. Losing Bijan Robinson is a massive, massive loss for Texas. He was not just a bruiser as a running back, but he was a legitimate threat out of the backfield as well. And you're right. And that was a player that Alabama had to account for. You didn't have to just account for Quinn Ewers and that wide receiver core. You had to account for one of the best running backs in the nation. He's out of the picture now. And now Texas, in a way, has I'm not going to say Jalen Milroe is better than Bryce Young because he's not. But in terms of running, he is. And so Texas knew that if they could just contain Bryce Young, they'd probably be okay. But now they've got Milroe, who was throwing darts against Middle Tennessee, and now has a lot of dual threat capability as well. Had 2 rushing touchdowns last week, and obviously a handful last year as well when he filled in for Bryce Young. So I'm 100% with you there. Alabama's defense is the strength of this team. Texas loses one of their key X factors. Quinn Ewers will be healthy the whole game. That's something they didn't have last year, which is great. But Alabama, I do think, is going to be able to shut that down. And we'll have more analysis on this game on Thursday. We're going to have a full prediction video out for Texas and Alabama, sharing some of your insight that you just mentioned. We had that already written down, as well as who's going to win the game, who we feel confident is going to win the game. But right now, look, all I'm going to say is Alabama's a favorite for a reason, and we'll leave it at that.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you, man, and look forward to hearing more stats and information from you later on in the week. And like I said, I watch you pretty much even when you're not doing this show right here. I watch your even shorter videos that you do. So, man, just keep up the good work, okay, bro?
Hey, Lance, I really appreciate the call, man. That means a lot. Thank you so much.
All right, have a good one.
Hey, you too, man. Thank you. All right, it's our man Lance. We appreciate him for the call. Love it. And Lance, we appreciate the support, man. And whether it's here on the live stream or whether it's, as you mentioned, on the other videos, the weekly videos we put out, we really, really appreciate that. And that support goes a long way, man. It really does. Everything goes a very, very long way in helping our channel grow. So we appreciate you. All right, we're getting another caller. I love it. Love the patience. I love the back-to-back calls. Let's get it going here. Keep it up the discussion, and don't worry, we will find our way back into the chat, addressing some of your comments, pulling them up here on the screen. We're gonna make sure we get into those. And I don't know if I gave DM a shout out, but DM, good to see you. Glad you're here. Matthew Hazelhorse, good to see you. Very glad you're here. Nice to see you. Want to make sure I hit everybody that's coming into the stream. And again, we'll come back to that here shortly. But we've got another caller. Who's with us?
This is college football guy. What's up, G? How you doing, man?
Hey, doing good, bro. How you doing?
Oh, not too bad. All I can say is this is not good to have college football back.
It is.
What a great week for week one. I mean, holy cow.
It's the best time of the year, man. I love nothing more.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And like as usual, some things as we expected, a lot of things that we didn't expect. But hey, that's why we play the games, right? To address some of those issues of who is overrated, who's underrated, who's the teams that we thought we are, and who's and what's the big surprises. And I know we got quite a few, so I kind of want what I'm calling about is I kind of want to just kind of give you my takeaways of what I got from week one, and then kind of talk about some of the games for week two. And I don't want to take up too much time, so I'll just kind of talk about that. I'll get off the phone and kind of let you address it after I give my comments. You're okay with that?
Yeah, that sounds great, man. Lay it on us.
All right, so my takeaways from week one, I kind of got really there's a lot I can say, but I kind of summed it up in 5 big takeaways. My number one big takeaway, Colorado is a lot better than I expected. I was like with you. I was one of those people that was getting sick and tired here about the whole Colorado being hyped up and everything, and I had to see it to believe it. And, well, I believe it now. Holy cow. I mean, TCU couldn't stop a nosebleed on that side of the ball. Deion Sanders, Travis Hunter, my gosh, he is a generational type of player. I have not seen a player do something like that in a long, long time. But Colorado, wow, what an amazing game that was. And like I said, Deion shut me up. I have to eat my crow. He proved me wrong. Colorado, I hate to say it, might be a legitimate contender. Now, of course, they still got a very tough schedule coming down the road. I mean, the Pac-12 is another one of my takeaways, which is looking to be might be another great conference. I'll get more to that afterward. But, man, watch it. All I can say is watch out for Colorado because they look good against week one. And TCU, I don't know, TCU might be overrated. I hate to see. I still think they're a good team, top 25 team. But, my gosh, that offense regretted a lot back. And that defense I thought was pretty bad from last year. Boy, they got worse from last year because they just got lit up, especially there in the secondary. My second biggest takeaway, Florida State, obviously a lot of people were saying were they overhyped or not. And, well, they proved it this season. They proved it on Sunday. Not only are they a playoff contender, but they're a national contender as well. Wow, what a game that was. Now, my early thoughts on is like some stupid coaching decisions by Brian Kelly there in the first half. I don't know what he was thinking there. Go with the points in something big like this, but it's like I was really baffled because they were the better team in the first half if you just look at the first half. But obviously in the second half, it's like they just decided not to show up. Michigan game from last year. You know how the game was back and forth,
Right.
Went to the third quarter, and then Michigan kind of blew it out of the water in the fourth quarter. Kind of similar. I saw similar results from this time. FSU just dominated there in the fourth quarter. I mean, there's a lot of things that obviously LSU has a lot of things, and obviously I drink the Kool-Aid on it. I thought they were going to be legit. I think they still are a legitimate contender. I don't think they're overrated. I still think they're a top team. They're still at least a top 15 team, but in terms of a national title contender, quite a few more question marks you got to address before they can make that next step. Number 3 big takeaway, Clemson is overrated. Well, it's kind of a bunch, really, just the ACC in general. Clemson overrated. What a disastrous game call plan. I was very shocked to see what happened. Really, Duke should have been up 24-0 with both of those fumbles. And boy, but of course, Clemson capitalized it. And then, of course, right turnaround, Clemson just, I don't know what happened. Back-to-back fumbles right there in the goal line. They were moving up and down the field on Duke with the run game, so they had a good plan going, but for whatever reason, they decided just to fumble the ball twice there in the end zone. Well, not in the end zone, but on the 1 yard line. You know what I mean?
Right.
But man, they torched Clemson, and Clemson has a lot of issues, and it's finally caught up with Dabo Swinney. Stick in the ACC. My 4th biggest takeaway: North Carolina's defense. What an improvement. I was not expecting that. As a Tar Heel fan, I was screaming at the top of my lungs. 9 sacks, -2 yards. I mean, unbelievable. And then that one throw that Drake made, I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. So when Drake made, threw a quick pass, a guy, got on his knee, caught on one hand. Man, me and a buddy of mine, we were just screaming at the top of our lungs when he made that play. An incredible game plan. Besides the couple bonehead mistakes that Drake made there with a couple of key interceptions, one of them wasn't his fault. But still, a great game plan. North Carolina's a legitimate contender to possibly go back to the ACC championship, especially with Clemson not looking so good and NC State not having also a good game plan as well. And then my last one, as it stands right now, the Pac-12 looks to be the best conference. 13-0, Washington, USC, Oregon, Utah, they all look great. Now, I know Utah still wasn't to its full strength, but even with backups look good. But, of course, Florida is just crap, of course. Holy cow, I don't know what happened to Florida there. And not good showing for the SEC overall as a conference in general. I guess 0-3 in some of the bigger games that kind of happened with Florida getting beat down, South Carolina getting beat down, and then, of course, LSU just getting embarrassed. Those are my 5 biggest takeaways. Biggest games from this week, obviously Tulane, Ole Miss. Excited to see that one. Tulane looked really good against South Alabama. I was really impressed by that. Of course, Ole Miss did what they're supposed to do, beat the crap out of South Mercer. So intriguing to see how that game will go. And then, of course, the big one, Texas versus Alabama. I think Texas I know they didn't look good in week 1, but I think they were being conservative to hide their playbook from Alabama a little bit. And I really don't know what to expect in this game. Alabama looked great against Middle Tennessee. Jalen Monroe, he looked really, really impressive. Kind of like you, though, I like this. It'd be funny to see Texas upset Alabama just that way we all can point and laugh. But in reality, until I see it, I have to go with Alabama to win that game. It's at home. It's at night. Like I said, Nick Saban might want to prove a statement, but at the same time, Texas might put that game's a lot closer than last year. So I really don't know what to expect from that game. But it's at home for Alabama. What was it? The last time we lost at home was to LSU, I believe, in 2019. That was a long time ago. So I still can't pick against Alabama. And some of the dark horse games I like to watch this week, Kansas, Illinois. That was an intriguing matchup to keep an eye on. Obviously, Texas Tech versus Oregon. Could Texas Tech could possibly be overlooking to Oregon to this week maybe, and then of course a couple other games that you pointed out. Well, anyway, that's everything I want to talk about. You can react to my thoughts. I'll let you go. Don't want to keep up on the line or anything. So, DD, good talking to you, buddy, and I'll talk to you next week.
Sounds great, man. Hey, thanks for the call, man. We'll make sure to address all this here in one sec. But hey, great insights and great takes. I really appreciate it.
All right, thank you, sir.
That's our man, college football guy. Great insight, man. I'm telling you, great call, great takes, and we're going to make sure to address every single one of them here. I actually wrote them all down, so I didn't forget. It's five big ones. Dat dude, have a great night, man. Appreciate you and all the support. Enjoyed talking with you earlier today. Enjoyed talking with you tonight. Again, really appreciate you. We'll take a look at what college football guy just said. We talked a lot about Colorado just a second ago. Hit on them for a good while. I think they've exceeded all of our expectations. I mean, look, this is a team that won one game last year. I know this team is nothing like the team they had last year because there's no one there. There's no one there from last year. But we're going to answer Mitch's call. We're going to put him on hold for 1 second. Get him on here.
Mitch.
Here we go. See. Hey, Mitch, I'm going to put you on hold for 1 second, my guy.
All right.
All right. So that was that's Mitch. We're going to get to him in 1 second. But I wanted to make sure we touched college football guy and what he was saying. Colorado exceeded expectations. 1-11 last year. Here they are already 1-0, now ranked number 22 nationally. I understand that everybody on this team, hardly anybody on this team from last year, right? I mean, it's a team full of transfers, but it's working. That's the direction of college football right now. Whether you're for the transfer portal or not, you've got to adapt with the times. Look at what Texas State did. That's a team with a new coach, loaded with transfers. Quarterback, a transfer. TJ Finley transferring in from Auburn, also has Malik Hornsby, who transferred in from Arkansas. Colorado just did the same thing with Deion Sanders. Greatly exceeded expectations, beating TCU, has an opportunity to start 3-0, tripling last year's win total, and that's before they really get into conference play. They haven't played Stanford, who's going to probably struggle quite a bit. Arizona State, who could struggle quite a bit. I mean, if they do start 3-0, this is a Colorado team that could very well make a bowl game in their first year under Deion Sanders, and that would be a massive win, and honestly, for me, put Sanders in the conversation for Coach of the Year. Florida State, obviously, was a phenomenal game against LSU. Was a really big win for them. I mean, this is one of those things where you look at Florida State last year, won 10 games, didn't really beat anybody noteworthy. So other than LSU at the beginning of the year. So this is one of those things that was like, are they going to live up to the hype? Are they going to be the team we think they're going to be? And they did. And I like his comparison to Michigan and Ohio State from last year, where it was a close game for a while, and then someone just busted it open. That's exactly what Florida State did. Down 3, ran the table, scored 31 unanswered. By that point, the game was already over. This team is dangerous, also utilizing the transfer portal to their advantage. I mean, Florida State, guys, is a legitimate college football playoff contender. I know they've still got to go to Clemson, which despite what we saw from Clemson last night, still will not be easy. But Florida State is the real deal. And this is a team that I'm really excited to watch for the rest of the year. We said Florida State's schedule came down to 2 games. We said LSU and Clemson were the 2 biggest games on Florida State's schedule. And if they could just split those games, they should find themselves back in the ACC championship game. And if they go there at 11-1, that is a play-in game for them for the college football playoff. They've already guaranteed the split. They've beat LSU. So regardless of what happens against Clemson, they should be in good spot unless they get upset by someone that we're not expecting down the road. But I'm looking at Florida State right now saying there's a very good possibility they finish either undefeated or 11-1. That will be good enough to get them into the ACC championship game, which means right now there is a very clear-cut path for Florida State to make the college football playoff. No doubt about it. And we're going to touch on the rest of college football guys' topics, his final 3, after we get off the phone with Mitch, but I don't want to make him wait any longer. So, Mitch, how's it going, man?
Pretty good, buddy.
Hey, doing good, man. Doing good. Appreciate the call and appreciate the comments. And how's the year been going so far?
Yeah, pretty good. Just got a little homework and that's about it.
I feel that. Are you still playing football this year? Last year, are you still on the team?
Oh yeah, I am.
That's what I thought. So how's the team looking this year?
Pretty good. I'm a lineman, so we did pretty good in our game last Friday night.
There we go. That's what we'd like to hear. You guys get the win?
Yeah, we did.
Let's go, baby. That's what we'd like to hear. You got to keep us updated. If you guys once you guys make the playoffs and begin the playoff run later on this year, you're going to have to keep us updated, and we'll be backing you guys. Hopefully on the road to a state title in your last year.
Oh yeah. Yep.
So what we got? We talking Cy-Hawk today?
That and I think Penn State is going to be freaking amazing this year.
I like this pick. I like this topic. All right, elaborate on that, and I'll give my thoughts too.
Just their quarterback is a stud. I was watching that whole entire game, and he is head and shoulders better than Sean Clifford and Trace McSorley. I think he's a stud.
Yeah, I fully agree. There was so much excitement coming out of Happy Valley with Drew Aller. You know, people kind of hyping him up, saying this could be the next great Penn State quarterback. I mean, as you mentioned, better than Clifford, better than McSorley, but maybe one of the better quarterbacks they've had in the last 10, 15 years. And it was like, okay, that's great, and I hope that's the case, but we gotta see it to believe it. And to do what he did, throwing for over 300 yards in his first really true start against a Power 5 opponent. I know it was a lower level Power 5 team in West Virginia. I mean, not really a big threat or anything, but to do what he did was pretty phenomenal, and really should give Penn State fans a lot of hope, because this is not, you know, last year this was a team that was kind of centered around the run. You had Nick Singleton, you had Katron Allen, and it was like, okay, that's great, but Sean Clifford at times was great, and then at times he was a liability, and then you had to factor in his health as well. This year, multi-dimensional and a defense that will be one of the best in the country. Like, if this is the year that Penn State wants to make the college football playoff, I think this is the year they've got to do it, because all the pieces are there. The schedule is there, getting to host Michigan. I mean, yeah, I love what I saw out of them. I love that we finally get to see a Penn State offense air it out and like truly air it out. This is going to be a really fun team to watch.
Yeah, they are a pretty fun team to watch, and I also think two Big Ten East teams could make the playoffs as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's not far-fetched. I mean, shoot, we saw it last year. I mean, Michigan and Ohio State both made it last year, and you know, and it really is a you've got three teams really competing for two spots, and because I'm going to tell you right now, unless Texas beats Alabama and kind of runs the table, or maybe Oklahoma finds a way to run the table, I'm not sure a Big 12 team is going to get into the college football playoff. And I'm saying this, and how this pertains to the Big 10 is because you look at the SEC. The SEC champs getting in, whether it's Georgia, whether it's Alabama, whoever it may be, they're going to get in. Pac-12, they might easily go in there and beat each other up. I mean, I'd love to see a Pac-12 team get in there, but they might not, which is going to leave a door open for maybe two Big Ten East teams to get in. So how Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State all fare against each other, and obviously they're all kind of spread apart. Like Michigan has to go to Penn State, but they get to host Ohio State, and Ohio State gets to host Penn State. So, you know, there's a very good chance they just all beat up on each other. Maybe we have like a three-way tie by the end of the year. And again, it's not far-fetched to think that we could get two Big Ten East teams in there. We saw it last year, and I wouldn't put it past them to see it again this year.
Yeah, that division is just so loaded. It's too bad the Big Ten sucks and actually has divisions, and we can't see one of those or some of those teams playing each other in the conference championships.
It is. It really is a shame. And I know I really don't know how exactly the Big Ten is going to try to do it next year when, you know, USC, UCLA, Oregon, and Washington all join. But, you know, it is a shame when you look at it. I mean, how crazy would it be to see maybe Ohio State and Michigan play each other in back-to-back weeks? I know people don't, you know, some people wouldn't want that, but I would be all for it. Let's see them play in back-to-back weeks. Let's see them play for a spot in the playoff in the last game of the year. You know, it is a shame for two things, that we don't have that like the ACC is doing, because the ACC, we needed that with Florida State and Clemson and North Carolina and Duke, maybe getting to see some of these guys play each other twice. It's also a shame that we don't have an expanded playoff, because you've got three teams in Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State that to me by the end of the year are all playoff worthy. And very well all could be a one-loss or even a two-loss team. And a two-loss team could have a loss to, you know, Ohio State. And like, say Penn State loses both to Ohio State and Michigan. To me, that's still a team that should be competing for a national championship, to have their shot. And they're going to get left out. And I know we're getting the expanded playoff next year, and that's great. But if we had it this year, I think things would be drastically different.
Yeah, I totally agree. It would just be wild to see, and can't wait for the Cyhawk game this weekend. Last Saturday, getting into the UNI game, it was a total shit show. It took 30 minutes to get into the game. All those the new technology and the scanners weren't working at all. So plus it was hotter than hell out, so it sucked.
Man, I feel that. I will. I'll share my own personal story. I hate the way people are doing things now with scanning tickets and the heat and everything. I went to the Arkansas season opener in Little Rock. I was actually in Little Rock for that game, and it was the worst run stadium. Like I love games in Little Rock. I genuinely do. A lot of Arkansas fans don't. But like you said, it was miserably hot. We didn't even stay for the whole thing. They weren't even scanning tickets. We went through the metal detectors, but they didn't even scan our tickets to see if we even had them. But it was so hot, they ran out of water like after the first quarter. So we had people dropping left and right from heat exhaustion and heat stroke. I mean, I kid you not, every section someone was passing out. It was a really, really bad deal. So they were very poorly planned. It took us about 45 minutes to get into the stadium because it was so long to get through the metal detectors. The line for the concession stand was wrapped around the stadium because there were only like 2 concession stands open. I mean, it was a bad deal. So I feel your pain, man. First week of football was great, but if you were at one of those games, it was pretty miserable.
Yeah, it was. And it was just ridiculous seeing all around. Like, a lot of people were having medical issues going on. It was just a total shit show that could have been prevented.
Yeah, you nailed it. It was something that easily could have been prevented had there been better planning or better just organization. And it's funny. It's like these guys that are running the show had like never hosted a game before. It's like, we've done this. We do this every year. What has changed?
Yeah, exactly. Also, when was that Little Rock game? Was that this year or years ago?
The Little Rock game was this year. It was this last Saturday. Opened up against Western Carolina in Little Rock.
Oh, cool. Also, I heard that the field on Little Rock is like in bad shape. Is that true?
Yeah, I've played on it a few times myself. It's pretty rough. It's a good looking field, but the surface itself is pretty. Like, I feel like it's harder than traditional turf. Like, it's like, you know, the running joke about playing in Little Rock is like, you just pray that no one gets hurt. Like, if you can escape Little Rock with no injuries, you're going to be in good shape because the field surface and playing surface isn't nearly as good as it is in Fayetteville.
Yeah, I heard it. I heard one time it was like basically playing on concrete.
Yeah, no, you nailed it. Yeah, if you go up for a catch and come down too hard or get thrown down, you're going to be feeling it for a while and or possibly worse, could be out for a while. I'll give it, you know, Little Rock's got better tailgating. It's got a better atmosphere than Fayetteville, and I'm probably in the minority when it comes to that. But I think the atmosphere in Little Rock is 10 times better than it is in Fayetteville. But stadium's not nearly as big. Stadium hasn't been kept up as well as it should have been over the years. But it's always a fun time when we're down there. But I mean, they used to play half their season in Little Rock years ago. Obviously, quit doing that, but yeah, I think 2025 is going to be the last game that they play in Little Rock, so kind of going to be an end of an era.
Yeah, is Arkansas playing BYU this Saturday?
Next Saturday. This Saturday, Arkansas got Kent State, and then next week they got BYU.
Oh, I think they're going to mop the floor with BYU. Man, they do not look good at all.
Yeah, I was keeping up with that game later on Saturday night, and I was like, geez, like 14-0, that's it. I know Sam Houston was one of the better FCS programs, and they're making their FBS debut, but I mean, that was it. The offense looked atrocious. Keaton Slovis and everything just did not look good at all.
Yeah, he did it. Well, anyways, I'm excited for the Cyhawks showdown this Saturday. I hope we get the job done 2 years in a row. That would be fantastic start to the season.
No doubt, man. No doubt. I'm hoping the same for you guys. I mean, it's going to be we'll have a prediction out for that tomorrow, I think, on our week 2 prediction. It's one of our top 5 games of the week. But it's one of those games that's going to be relatively low scoring. It's just going to be a matter of which offense steps up. I'm not really impressed with either. So, you know, last year it was 10-7. Y'all got the win in Kinnick. So, you know, in Ames, despite the suspension, it's going to be rocking. So it's going to be I think it's going to be a pretty fun game.
Yeah, it is. All right. Take care, man.
Hey, appreciate you, Mitch. Talk to you later. All right. Our man used to be Cyclone Mitch. Now just going by our man Mitch. Big Iowa State fan. Great insight there. And hope he wins a state title this year. Playing up on the line. And it's going to be a Jackrabbit, believe it or not. Going to be a South Dakota State Jackrabbit. Unless something changes here in the next couple months. So congrats to Mitch. And appreciate the call, man. Really do. Jerry, good to see you, man. What's up, Jerry? Nice to have you here, man. Go Orange. Congrats on the win. I know you were very invested in the Colgate game. You were very invested in that, kind of a personal game for you. And I know Syracuse dominated. We're going to take our call here, but congratulations to Jerry. Good to see you. All right, let's see. We got him on the line here. This looks like Charles. What's going on, Charles?
Not much, man. Just keeping up with your live stream. How are you?
Hey, doing good, man. Appreciate the call. How things going? Are you still down in the New Orleans area?
Yes, I am. I was actually at that, speaking of being at games on that hot weekend last week, I was at the South Alabama Tulane game.
Nice. All right, well, that was a pretty dang good game to be at, man. I was curious to see how it was going to go. South Alabama was no joke, but I mean, to win that game by 20 and pretty much dominate from start to finish, that was pretty impressive.
Yeah, definitely starting off on the right foot, and a lot of teams can say that for last week. So
yeah, no doubt.
That is, I guess, I had a couple of points that I guess I wanted to make. One being that, like, a lot of people are, really buying into week one hype, and I wish people would, pump the brakes a bit, because I look at some of the results. I'm like, okay, some teams got, the season started on the right foot. Others not so much. But, like, one, for example, that I can think of is, like, Colorado took just a massive step forward into just becoming bowl eligible for the first time for a while. I don't know. I haven't kept up with them as much, but that was such a good game for them. But I think, like, if you had to make observations about that matchup in particular, I think that says more about TCU than it did about Colorado. Like, good on them for winning on the road, but, TCU has just lost so many pieces, so much NFL level talent, I think, that, it's only natural that they would regress. And some of their coordinator hires, I'm sure me as an Arkansas fan, I wasn't exactly surprised to see their offense kind of, I wouldn't say struggle, but there were a couple of drives that they got they're closer and closer to the red zone, and that some of their calls really cost them the game. And I look at a lot of that, and I see a lot of what happened for Arkansas last year with some of the play calls that they had. So I think TCU will be okay. I think they'll be 6-6 personally, but not good to start at home losing to a team that you probably shouldn't have lost, regardless of the talent that's on Colorado.
Yeah, no, that's a good man. Yeah, they were a 20.5-point favorite on Saturday. I mean, again, like you mentioned, regardless of the talent, you would have thought from a continuity standpoint, TCU. Everybody wants to point fingers at TCU. Well, they lost Max Duggan, they lost Kendre Miller at running back, they lost Quentin Johnson at wide receiver. All those points, but people are forgetting that Chandler Morris, the son of Chad Morris, was the starter for TCU last year before going down with an injury against Colorado. So, like, you can't really put it on, it was a new quarterback or an inexperienced quarterback, because he was supposed to be the starter last year anyway. So he was clearly good enough with Sonny Dykes' eye to earn that job. So the quarterback position was supposed to be solid. Dykes is an offensive guy. It was supposed to be solid. The defense had the most returning starters on both sides. They were supposed to be better than they were last year on year two. So you're right. Everything was in place for TCU, even if they weren't going to cover that game, to win that game. And I mean, I like the point that you made. I mean, you don't want to necessarily overreact or anything, but, it more like credit to Colorado. They deserved to win that game. They greatly exceeded everybody's expectations. But if you're TCU, you should be worried, because to allow that to happen on your home turf after the season you had last year with the talent that you did return is concerning. And like you mentioned, they made a lot of crucial mistakes down the road, namely in the red zone. And you're right, watching that game, I got a lot of flashbacks of Kendall Briles and his offense at Arkansas. It was one of those things where there would be so many times where Arkansas would get a big chunk play, find themselves inside the 10-yard line, and yet you never even felt confident they were going to punch it in the end zone. It was like, we're here, this is great, but we probably aren't going to score. We're either going to go for it and not get it, or we're going to have to settle for a field goal. And that happened time and time again with TCU, whether they didn't score or they were held to a field goal or they returned the ball over. I think they had like an interception at the 4-yard line, interception in the end zone, reflective of the play calling and reflective of Chandler Morris. So, yeah, I'm 100% with you on that. This is a very big sign of things to come for TCU.
Yeah, I have two other kind of quick points. One being, I think that kind of speaking back to this Colorado TCU game, I'm not a betting person, but I think it's very clear to me that Vegas does not respect the roster overhaul. And I understand the trepidation on that, from a bookie perspective. You don't want to give these teams who really are unproven, despite the talent that's on those rosters, Texas State and Colorado being the two big ones. I think you look at those rosters, throw everything out of the window about the team except for just how good those players are, on the field. Those are really talented rosters for their conferences, I think. But Vegas just didn't respect that. I'm sure it cost them some money. I mean, they definitely made their money in other games, but even now, I think, Texas State and Colorado are still going to face longer odds, based on Vegas, but I think it speaks. Maybe they'll start respecting it after a couple of weeks, but that's yet to be seen. And then the last thing I had for you was, I think if I had to pick a sleeper game next week, I think I would go for A&M and Miami. I think that one, people have forgotten about it, but last year you had two really talented rosters were just in the mud, and this year they've made some coordinator changes. They're still really talented rosters, and I think it's going to be a better game than people are anticipating, and it's going to be something that I'm really looking forward to watching.
No, but hey, that's great points. I'll tell you on that. And if you want, I'll hang up with you, Charles, here, and I'll answer both those questions, but because those are both fantastic points.
Yeah, no worries.
Hey, thanks for the call, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. Take care.
You too. Good guy. Charles Lee Hyde, resident Tulane fan. He was the one that sent us the Tulane gear back here, the helmet and the pennant and the Louisiana Tech pennant, but you can't see it with our banner there. But Charles, excellent points, Charles. I want to give you that. First, what you said about the roster overhaul and Vegas not respecting it. I think you're right. Well, obviously you're right. I mean, Colorado was a 20.5-point underdog against TCU. Texas State was a 26.5-point underdog against Baylor. Granted, did they both deserve to be pretty massive underdogs? I would say so. Texas State was garbage last year and was playing a Baylor team that was supposed to bounce back. Colorado was playing the national runner-up. But answer this call. We're going to put them on hold so I can continue to answer. See if we get them on here. All right, we're going to put them on hold. Whoever called, we're going to keep you on hold for a second. But what he said about the roster overhaul was good because they deserve to be massive underdogs. But I think the concern with that is the chemistry that a team can build, right? Like you look at Colorado, over 50 new players. You got a new quarterback. You got new receivers. You got new running backs. You got new coaches. You got all these new pieces coming together. Do we really expect all of it to just immediately click and immediately this team to start contending on the road against a national runner-up? Probably not. Same for Texas State, a lower-end Sun Belt team that's kind of dealing with some Power 5 conference scraps, like TJ Finley coming in, Malik Hornsby coming in, all these guys coming in, GJ Kine coming in as head coach from the FCS level. All these guys coming in, new coach, new players, everything like that, going on the road to a hostile Baylor environment. Do we really expect them to contend? No, and then they do. And what this is the future of college football. And I don't think people recognize that. This is the way college football is heading. Is we've seen the use of the transfer portal. We've seen how much is being used by coaches. And to me, it's kind of becoming in a similar way to college basketball. If you look at college basketball, teams are bringing in these experienced players and immediately packing it in to try to go make a deep run in March. Even in the NFL, look at that. Look at what the Rams did a few years ago. They sold out. They spent all their money, used all their cap space, went all out to bring in as many elite players as they could. They got guys like Odell. They got Matthew Stafford. They got Von Miller. They brought all these, experienced, good players to try to come in and for 1 or 2 years, let's try to make a run at a title. And they did. They won it all. That's what they're doing in basketball. That's what they're doing now in football. It's let's load up in the transfer portal, get guys that are either really experienced or guys that have a lot of talent but haven't maybe been utilized to the best of their abilities. Maybe even from the FCS level, bringing them up, kind of what Deion Sanders is doing at Colorado. Throw them in there for 2 or 3 years, and let's see if we can do something special. Maybe not go win a title, but make a good bowl game, make a run, do whatever. That's the way college football is shifting. Your typical recruiting style is no longer going to your local high school and trying to find the best 4-star, 5-star recruits. Sure, you got to do that a little bit, but now the focus is shifting to the portal. Who can we get from other schools? And now you factor in NIL deals with that as well. It's not just about recruiting. It's about what can we offer you? Can we offer you a car? Can we offer you a house? Can we offer you millions of dollars? There's no longer, I'm going to go to the school that's best for me. I'm going to go to the school that I think I can win at. I'm going to go to school that can provide the most for me. So much is at stake here now. It's because the landscape of football has completely changed, and we're going to the point where teams are going to start basing their success and their strategy on a successful year is going to be loading up in the portal. And like you mentioned, Charles, Vegas may not recognize that. They're going to probably based on continuity. They're going to base it on chemistry. But what we've seen these last couple of weeks and what we'll see over the next couple of weeks as well will show that probably doesn't really matter anymore. And you could very well see that change in Vegas and across college football entering next year. And finally, your last point, didn't mean to rant there. Your last point, underrated game, A&M Miami, 100%. People are forgetting about it. You've got Utah, Baylor, Nebraska, Colorado, Oregon, Texas Tech, Alabama, Texas, all these big games coming up. We're forgetting about this game in Miami that is massive for both of these programs. Two teams that went 5-7 last year, yet are still loaded with talent. Two teams that are expecting major bounce back years and an overhaul with their roster, an overhaul on their coaching staff more than anything. And this game kind of sets the tone for each of their seasons. This game sets the tone for Texas A&M. This game sets the tone for Miami. The winner of this game gets this huge monumental resume-boosting win, while the loser, people are going to be like, here we go again. Another disappointing start to the year. So it is kind of flying under the radar because we have so many other massive games on there. It's not a ranked versus ranked matchup like it was last year, yet it is massive. It is going to be close. It is going to be exciting, and we're going to have a prediction out for that game tomorrow. But do not sleep on Texas A&M Miami, which also could get overshadowed in that 2:30 slot by Ole Miss and Tulane. Of course, I know eyes will be on that one, Charles. I hope you get to go to that game on Saturday. But at that same time, we've got a huge game going down in Miami that is massive for the course of these two programs that are on desperate needs of a big year. So excellent point, excellent reminder. All right, we're going to take our call. We apologize for having them on hold. You're on the Gridiron Expert. Who do we have?
It's Brian Davis.
Hey, what's up, Brian? I'm glad we got you on the line, man.
Yeah, sorry I missed last week's. Just work's been crazy because I'm doing some doubles, so it's just crazy to be able to do game days on Saturday and then work all week to be able to do that. So.
If you don't mind, what are you doing, man? I know you got a new gig here, relatively recent.
Yeah, so my main job, I work with kids that are on the behavior and autism spectrum. So that's my primary job, but then kind of more on the side of USC has an extension of their bookstore closer to where I live in Orange County, about an hour south of Los Angeles. So doing that kind of in my spare time. But I wanted to call you. I listened to the last probably 45 minutes, CFB guy, Mitch, and then Charles who called before me. But 2 points that I kind of wanted to, that kind of came to my mind for this week that, I don't know, maybe I didn't watch your review video yesterday yet, but Texas Tech looked really disappointing to me Saturday. Someone who agreed with you that they were going to be a dark horse this year, they definitely did not live up to any kind of expectation. Saturday in Wyoming, I mean, I know Wyoming could be some team at home, but I mean, considering what their expectations are and their roster, I definitely didn't think that Tech should have dropped that game. More of poor decision making and lack of execution on Tech's part. And then my other point, and this is something that I kind of been sort of starting with for quite a while, which is even before all this conference realignment and the whole discussion of turning the 14 CFP to 12. I've always thought 8 was the ideal number. I mean, I know I may briefly mention this, but part of why the 8 was the ideal number is because before this whole super conference realignment with Big Ten having 16, the SEC, and actually Big Ten's gonna have 18 next year, and ACC taking up Cal, Stanford, and possibly SMU.
the fact that every conference would have representation, and then you would take the 3 biggest at larges. But with the whole idea of moving to 12, it kind of gives me this impression that because of viewership and where it is, that the SEC, it's kind of a popularity contest where they get the final say. And as much as I respect how many, national titles the SEC has been the representative of the last 15, 20 years per se, I still, think we should try to, because every year is different. This year is a great example. Like, yeah, we're only 1 weekend, but, Pac-12 is undefeated slate, which the SEC can't even say. But, thanks for letting me take the call.
Hey, appreciate you, Ryan. Thanks for the call, man. And I'll make sure to answer these right now. But I hope the job continues to go well, and obviously hope USC continues to thrive, my man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you, man. We'll talk soon. Appreciate the call. It's our man Ryan Dobas, and great points. I want to address them right now from what he was saying. And Mark, appreciate you, man. Thank you for calling in, or thank you for showing up, leaving some comments. Go Hurricanes, my man. Go Canes. Looking forward to seeing them on Saturday with that underrated game. Prediction for that coming out tomorrow, and looking forward to getting your thoughts. And not just tomorrow, but after week 2 as well. Really, really excited about that game. But appreciate you and all the support, Mark. But to answer your question, Ryan, I like what you said about the first Texas Tech. You're right. That was really, really disappointing. And college football guy, I appreciate you as well. Thank you very much for calling in. Great topics and great points as well. And we're going to get back to yours. I know we didn't address all yours, and I'm going to get back to those. I promise you. But you look at Texas Tech, Ryan. You're right. I was high on them to an extent. I think I had them at like 8-4. I know you were high on. A lot of the country was high on them. You win 8 games last year, return practically your entire offense. Everything's looking good, and you're setting up for this massive showdown in week 2 against Oregon, where it was like, okay, start 1-0 against Wyoming. We're going to be in the top 25, which Tech would have been. Tech would have been 24th, 25th, probably had they defeated Wyoming, which would have set up for a top 25 showdown against Oregon. And it was like, if they beat Oregon, they would have shot from lower end 20s into the top 15. Now there's a possibility they start 0-2. Like, what a disappointment. And that is just the first 2 weeks of the year. Then you haven't even gotten into conference play, which the Big 12 does seem kind of down this year. I know Oklahoma and Texas are the heavy favorites, and rightfully so, but Baylor not looking good. TCU not looking good. Iowa State, you wonder how great they can be as the year goes on. Kansas State, obviously still going to be a threat for sure, but, relatively down, all things considered. Texas Tech missed a really good opportunity. Now, granted, all can be forgiven if they can beat Oregon, but you can't help but wonder what could have been if they defeat Wyoming. And like you said, Wyoming's good. 10 starters back on defense. They always play very well at home, but you were up 17-0, man. You were up 17-0 in the first quarter. You had the game in the bag. And I don't know if that was a matter of Texas Tech getting complacent. I don't know if it was a matter of them thinking they had the game in the bag, thinking Wyoming doesn't have the offense to hang with us. I don't know what it was. But they missed some great opportunities there. They missed 3 field goals in that game. Like we said, they make just one of those field goals. They win the game in regulation, don't even go to overtime. It was just a lot of wasted potential and opportunities for Texas Tech. Season is just beginning. It's a long season. They got a lot of time to bounce back, no doubt about it. But this was a team that I think people had high expectations for, and they came crashing down very, very quickly. The second thing you discussed with the playoff, I'm with you. I do agree that the SEC does get quite a bit of bias and benefit of the doubt, right? I do agree with that to an extent. I think for years, for over the last decade, probably about the last 15 years, the SEC, has been viewed as the best conference in the country. And for the most part, I would agree with that. I mean, you look at the track record, what Alabama has done for like the last 15 years, what Georgia has been doing recently. Then sprinkled in there, you always have contenders. LSU, typically very solid. A&M has been good at times. Tennessee now on the rise. Florida in there. So the SEC has a lot of talent, a lot of potential, obviously. But right now, when you're looking at teams that have legitimate playoff aspirations, there's 3. Alabama, Georgia, and Tennessee. That's it, right? Yes, Ole Miss is ranked. Yes, A&M is ranked, but that's it. You could throw LSU in there if you want, but that loss to Florida State really hurt them. I like your take on the 8-team playoff, right? I think if you went that route, I think you probably take, I'm trying to think how you do that, 6. I think you do 8 teams. No one gets a bye week. 1, 8, 2, 7, 3, 6, 4, 5, go to town. No one gets a bye week. Take 8 teams. I think you maybe take the top 5 group of 5 or top 5 Power 5 champions. You take the highest ranked group of 5 team. I think they deserve a dog in the fight. And a lot of people would disagree with that, but I think a group of 5 team, the highest ranked group of 5 team, deserves their shot at a natty. We reward in college basketball, every conference champion gets that automatic berth. They win their conference tournament, they get that automatic berth into March Madness. They get their shot at making a run. And while you could make the argument that a team like Boise State or Tulane or whoever would get annihilated by an Alabama or a Georgia in the first week, you got to play the games. Anything can happen, right? They deserve their shot. So I think you take the top 5 Power 5 champions, the top-ranked group of 5 team, and then 2 at-larges. I think that would be fine. That's, of course, with the Power 5 as it was. The Pac-12 now has dissipated. The conferences are now expanding. That changes that format a little bit, obviously. And Charles making a good point there, taking the Power 4 champs, and now the Pac-12 is gone, then the best group of 5 champions, and 3 at-larges. However, that would work, too, in today's college football, or at least next year's college football. I'm not opposed to 12 either. I'm really not. Because like we mentioned, I think it was with College Football Guy, or maybe Charles, I can't remember. We were talking about it, how there are so many teams that miss out on a shot and have a great year and miss out on a shot at a title because of a very small playoff field. Again, take a team like Penn State, for example. I'm not saying this is necessarily going to happen to them, but take a team like Penn State that is really, really good. And let's say they have 2 one-possession losses to Michigan and Ohio State, both of which, let's say, made the playoff. Let's say they both get in. So you have a team that went 10-2, ran the table, and their 2 toughest tests, they fought tooth and nail and lost in the last few seconds, and they don't get a shot at a natty? Like, I'm not saying you should reward everybody for that at all, but in a 12-team playoff, Penn State would find their way in there. Or look at the SEC, how rugged, how tough the SEC is. You take a team like, I'm trying to think of a great example. Take a team like Arkansas. I mean, I'm just thinking in years past. Arkansas does a great year, goes 10-2. Arkansas goes 10-2, one of their best seasons in over a decade. Their 2 losses, let's say, are to LSU and Alabama. They will not be playing for a national championship. They probably won't even be playing for their conference title because the division is so tough. But don't you think they deserve that? Wouldn't you rank them as one of the top teams in the country, one of the top 12, 15 teams in the country at that point? In that case, they'd be in a 12-team playoff and they'd have their shot. Maybe they lose first round. Maybe they make a run. We don't know. Again, that's why you play the games. But that's why I'm in favor of the 12-team playoff, is there are so many teams that, unfortunately, take a look at LSU or Florida State or Clemson, all right? Take a look at the teams that we just saw in week 1. You sometimes can lose one game, and it derails your season. The margin for error is gone. And I'm not rewarding teams for losing at all. But what I'm saying is, I think it's wrong that LSU, and I think LSU is still a very good team. I think Clemson can be a very good team, although LSU more so right now. But they have now lost to Florida State, which means if they want to make this 4-team playoff, they have to win out. I don't see how that's right. They now have to win out if they want to. They lost the first game of the year to a number 8 team in the country. Yes, it was in dominating fashion, but now they are out. They are out of the playoff race. I mean, they are. Because for them to get in, they have to win out. That includes every SEC game they play, including a road game at Alabama. And then if they somehow were able to do all that, finish the year at 11-1, undefeated in SEC conference play, they go to the SEC championship game where they have to beat either Georgia or Tennessee, both of which would be very tall tasks. And if they were to lose that, this long magical run of 11 straight wins, and they lose the SEC title, they're done. That's 2 losses. It's wrong. It's been that way for years. It was like that in the BCS era. It's like that in the playoff era. The 12-team playoff will nix that. 12-team playoff, LSU would get in, or any team that ran the table after a season opening loss would get in. So, I mean, and we'll do that. These live streams, especially as the year goes on, we'll show you what our 12-team playoff would look like every single week, probably starting either next week or the week after on these live streams. We'll be like, hey, if we had a 12-team playoff, this is what it would look like right now based on our rankings, based on what's going on. And we'll cover you with that. So it's an interesting concept. It's something that's going to be delivered next year, and it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out, especially with the additions and the conference realignment, with the ACC doing what they're doing, with the Pac-12 falling apart, with the Big Ten becoming a super conference with 18 teams, SEC 16, Big 12 16. The landscape, again, guys, of college football is changing. Whether it's for good or for worse, for good or bad, that's for you to decide. But This is the last normal year of college football that we're going to have before everything changes next year. Going to have a lot of talking points next year, that's for sure. A lot of entertainment and talking points coming our way next season. That's one benefit. Want to take the last 15 minutes or so to hit some of the questions in the chat. I know we've got a lot of people kind of heading out. I know it's a little bit of a late night. Holiday weekend, throwing everybody off. Feels like a Monday, but it's a Tuesday. So throwing my weekend off or my week off. But get this one day closer to college football. But I want to address some of the last few questions before we call a night. Again, major shout out to everybody that's been here tonight, from calling in to being in the chat. We appreciate every single one of you. Make sure you hit that like button right here on the live stream to help boost our analytics, spread our word, help us get more subscribers. We're trying to get to 12,000, maybe by the end of the month. I think it's a very realistic goal. So continuing just to grow our GE Nation, continue to grow our channel and doing what we love, guys. We're just talking college football with you. I like what Indian Nation, Notre Dame Nation said right here about Brian Kelly. I could kind of see you and C. Glassman going at it in the comments, not really arguing, but discussing Brian Kelly and LSU. And he goes, all Notre Dame fans know Brian Kelly well. It's the same old story in big games. And it's funny, right? Because I thought Brian Kelly had broken that curse. Like last year when they beat Alabama in Death Valley, I was like, he did it. Like he finally won a meaningful game. And he won a few at Notre Dame, right? Like he had a couple big wins against Clemson. He got them to the college football playoff a few years ago, got them to the national championship back in 2012. So like he did win some decent games, but rarely did he win the big bowl game. So many New Year's Six bowl opportunities and bowl berths that they were unable to win. Big bowl games that they weren't able to win. Couldn't win the playoff games. Couldn't win the national championship. Beat Alabama. Didn't win the SEC championship. And now opening up the year with a blowout loss. It'd be one thing if LSU lost at the last second, kind of like they did last year to Florida State. Like, dang, we lost, but man, what a game. But to allow, 31 unanswered points is rough. That's a rough way to lose, especially when you led at halftime. So same old story, losing big games. And I'm just here to say, guys, I mean, LSU has the talent to be really, really good. We believe that. They're still a top 15 team in my eyes. They'll win this next week, but then it gets tough. They go on the road to Starkville. That's no easy task. On the road against Mississippi State. If LSU doesn't fix up their secondary, Bulldogs can hang with them. Can hang on with them tough. And they play Arkansas. They get that game in Death Valley, which is great. But Arkansas, no slouch either. KJ Jefferson, one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Running game should pick up. Defense looked better. Granted, it was against an FCS team, but they can contain Jaden Daniels, might be able to give him a fight. Arkansas typically plays LSU close. Like, just imagine if LSU, with all this preseason hype, were to lose 2 games in the month of September. Whether it's, they've already got one. So what if they were to lose to Mississippi State or Arkansas or Ole Miss or whoever it may be? Like, that would just shake up the college football landscape as a whole, and really LSU fans would be calling for Brian Kelly's head then. So it is interesting. It'll be very interesting to see how the rest of the year goes on, how Brian Kelly's able to right the ship, and how LSU responds from this. Because like he said, they were not the team that they thought they were. Because I don't know who we thought we were, but we were not who we thought we were. So great point there. Again, we appreciate Dat Dude. We appreciate College Football Guy. C. Glassman. Walter McKay. Good to see you. Matthew Hazelhorse makes a good point, saying TCU couldn't stop a nosebleed, but neither could Colorado. Colorado also allowed over 500 yards of offense. They combined for over 1,100 yards, and only a 24-yard total yard difference between the two. Colorado had one more punt and fumble. Pull it up. TCU had 2 interceptions. So both teams are pretty even defensively. And you're right, Colorado's run game was non-existent. I thought it might be a little bit better. They had some solid running backs in their backfield. I really thought they'd be better. So I don't know if it's a testament to Colorado being unable to generate enough push up front to create opportunities for the running backs, or if TCU's run defense was just that good. I'm not really sure. Regardless, Shadur Sanders in that passing game, the real deal. Kai, predictions for Notre Dame the rest of the season. Go check out our Notre Dame prediction video, my guy. My guy, Kai. Go check it out. We've got our Notre Dame prediction videos, but I will tell you this. Some of those predictions may change as we get closer to time to some of those big games, like the Ohio State game, which we did predict them to beat Ohio State, or the USC game later in October, because Notre Dame looks unbelievable. Notre Dame looks unbelievable, and I think Sam Hartman was the missing piece. The defense is there. The skill positions are there. the quarterbacks had been there in years past, but like Ian Book's no Sam Hartman. Tyler Buckner, Drew Pine, no Sam Hartman. Like this was maybe the missing piece that Notre Dame needed to get back to the college football playoff. And this year, maybe like win a playoff game. Like they are good, really, really good. And we'll talk more on their game against NC State tomorrow in our week 2 prediction video. But the Fighting Irish, people sometimes don't like to admit that they're good. Sometimes don't want them to be good. But this is a team that can make the national championship. And I wholeheartedly believe that. Not saying they will, but I wholeheartedly believe that they can. Let's see here. Bold prediction by Matthew. Ohio State loses to both Penn State and Michigan with no championship appearance. Yeah, losing 2 conference games would boot them out. And if that's the case, Matthew, that tack on a loss to Notre Dame, could you imagine Ohio State going 9-3? I mean, Ryan Day might be out of a job if that's the case. And that sounds ridiculous considering how well he's done, but Ohio State is a program that expects to win and win at a high level and win consistently and win Big Ten championships and win against Michigan and win national championships, none of which he has really done. Lost last couple to Michigan, hasn't played for the Big Ten championship, hasn't won a national championship, although we got him there back in 2020, that COVID year, losing to Alabama. A 9-3 or even another 10-2 season where they miss out on the playoff and the Big Ten championship could see the end of the Ryan Day era in Columbus, which would be insane to think about, but very, very possible. Let's see here. Last couple comments. Will, good question. What are my predictions for Purdue, Rutgers versus Purdue/Rutgers, Virginia Tech games? I guess both. Like Purdue, Virginia Tech, Rutgers, Virginia Tech, I guess is the question. I think based on our preseason predictions, I have Virginia Tech beating Purdue and then Rutgers beating Virginia Tech. That's what we have. Purdue looked pretty solid in Ryan Walters' debut, beating or almost beating Fresno State. You know, the defense wasn't what we thought it would be, but Mikey Keene from Fresno State, no slouch. The offense was a little bit better. Hudson Card looked bad. Devin Maccabee, not bad. So Purdue's not going to be as bad of a team as I think we were expecting. I think they'll contend. They might not just rack it up in the win column. But I do think they fall to Virginia Tech. Blacksburg's just such a difficult place to play. And Virginia Tech taking that step forward. I know they beat Old Dominion. It wasn't that impressive. But Virginia Tech should get the job done there, especially at home. A young team, new coach, in one of the toughest environments in all of college football, not going to pan out well. But then Virginia Tech has to go to Piscataway, where Rutgers looked good. I was impressed with Gavin Wimsatt. I thought he played well. I thought the defense played well. I know it was just Northwestern, but I'm buying the hype, if you want to call it hype, buying it into Rutgers. I obviously have them making a bowl game, and to make a bowl game, they're going to need to beat Virginia Tech. They're going to need to defend their home field. I believe they'll do just that. Personally, I really believe they will. Virginia Tech's offense looked good against Old Dominion. Old Dominion has nothing. Rutgers' defense isn't that bad. I think they're going to be able to shut down that Virginia Tech offense, force a couple turnovers. They'll get the win there. And we'll touch more on that next week when they play in Piscataway, but I do like Rutgers in that game. Last few here, is Notre Dame on upset alert versus NC State? Not a chance. Not a chance. Do not believe they're on upset alert at all. I really don't. I think Notre Dame probably wins that game by double digits. They are that good. NC State did not impress me at all against UConn. Let's see here. Don't worry, college football guy. I'm going to get back to you. I promise you. I'm going to get back to you. And that's how we'll probably conclude the show, honestly. Should we have a college football preseason? For example, FBS versus FCS matchups be like in the beginning of August or week 0 game? That's a good question, Jerry. That's a really good question. An interesting concept. I don't know how I like the preseason idea necessarily. I think that because you're not going to play that many games in the NFL, there's like 3 preseason games. You're not going to have 3 preseason college football games. But I don't dislike the idea of doing like maybe 1 preseason game / true spring game. I think it was maybe Hugh Freeze that pitched the idea that's like when spring games roll around, instead of making this an over-glorified scrimmage between our first string offense and our second string defense, what if we played an in-state rivalry game against lesser opponents? Like, for example, what if Alabama played UAB and Auburn played Jacksonville State in the spring? You know, you get a true look of what your team's going to look like in the fall. And maybe if you want to hold this game in August, go for it. But you could also hold it in April when the weather's a little bit cooler. have it in replacement of a spring game, and then you head into the offseason. I like that idea a lot. If you did Arkansas versus Arkansas State, or if you don't want to do something like play your FCS teams, play Arkansas and UAPB and or UCA or Missouri and Missouri State. There's opportunities there, right? And if your state isn't big enough, they don't have enough university, play a bordering state that's a lower level school. You don't have Alabama versus Auburn. Don't have elite programs playing each other, but play a lesser level program as your spring game, and it's a great opportunity for both teams to kind of see where they're at and make it a charity game. Make all the proceeds go to charity or something, because the game doesn't matter. The game doesn't count towards a win-loss record. Fans will make it out like it's a big deal. It's not, but it's just an opportunity to see where your team's at. So kind of like the preseason idea, but more so like playing an actual spring game against somebody, which in a way would kind of be preseason. So great concept, Jerry. I really like that for sure. No, hey, college football guy. No, you weren't being impatient, man. Not at all. Not at all. Did not take it that way at all. I want to answer Eddie's thing, and I'm going to get to yours. Eddie, will there be a Missouri K-State prediction if they're both 2-0? Time will tell. Time will tell. I can tell you this, Eddie. If they'll both be 2-0. I don't think Kansas State loses to Troy, and I don't think Missouri loses to Middle Tennessee. So at the very least, they will be on our week 3 predictions, like the big board, on the whiteboard. If they don't get their own individual video, which typically is reserved for just top 25 matchups, like ranked versus ranked matchups, they will definitely be on the big board. If Missouri slips into the rankings somehow, I don't think they will, but if they did, then yeah, we'll have their own individual video. Maybe we'll make an exception, who knows, but we will for sure, Eddie, in next week's live stream, and as well as with an actual video, be discussing Kansas State and Missouri. No doubt about it. So we will for sure, we'll have you covered in that one. No doubt. Great question. Don't worry. We got you covered for sure. Eddie, I appreciate you, man, for sure. All right. To wrap things up, college football guys, last takeaways from your call. We talked about Colorado. We talked about Florida State. Talked about Clemson. Obviously kind of trending down, not really living up to the hype like many expected. I mean, I'll be the first to admit I had Clemson in the college football playoff. Obviously a mistake. I mean, I bought into the hype, man. I bought into the hype of this defense. I bought into the hype of Garrett Riley transforming K. Klubnik into something good. And that can still happen. It's just the first week. But obviously kind of Clemson being in a similar situation to LSU, where if they want to salvage this year and still make the playoff or make some true noise, they're going to have to win out. And that's going to probably include 2 wins over Florida State. And I just don't know if Clemson has that in them, even though one of those games would be in Death Valley. So it's going to be a tough run for the Tigers, no doubt about it. But this is the team that I feel like is on the downhill slope. Like the dynasty, a lot of people are saying, is over for Clemson. And it feels that way, because if you look at the rest of their schedule, they still got Florida State. They still got, I think, Miami. They still got North Carolina. They still got a tough schedule down the road. And they can still salvage a 10-2 season, 9-3 season, something around there. Can still make the ACC championship game and maybe win that and go back to another Orange Bowl. That's great. But that's not the expectation for Clemson, right? They want more. They want to be contending for national championships. And this year looks like they're going to be missing out for the 3rd straight year. Things can change. It's a long season. Let's not write anybody off just yet. But the path to that makes it a lot more difficult. North Carolina, your team, looked phenomenal. I talked to our man, Dat Dude, a big NC fan, earlier today about that. Defense was great. 9 sacks, held into -2 rushing yards. And someone say, yeah, we still allowed over 350 yards through the air. Well, of course you did, because South Carolina, that's the only way they can move the ball. There was no balance for South Carolina. They knew, especially when they started trailing, that if they wanted a chance to win this game, they had to air it out. So, of course, naturally, they're going to allow more passing yards. I'm not going to say that North Carolina's passing defense struggled or was in bad shape because they allowed so many yards to a good quarterback in Spencer Rattler in a game where they had no choice but to throw the ball. But creating that much pressure on South Carolina, I think, was a testament to how bad South Carolina's offensive line is, but how much Gene Chizik's defense has improved. That was a phenomenal performance, and should give all North Carolina fans some encouragement, some optimism heading through the rest of the year, because that was a utter brilliant display against what was supposed to be one of the better offenses in the SEC. DM, good night, my man. Appreciate you. Thank you so much for being here and for all of your support. And go Rutgers, right? Go Rutgers, as always. Thank you so much again for all your support. And thank you for being here. I really do appreciate that. But we'll continue to wrap that up. North Carolina's defense was really, really good. I was talking to Dad, dude, I don't want to get ahead of myself with the Tar Heels. A 10-0 start is not out of the question. Is it likely? Probably not. But it could. They should beat App State pretty comfortably. I think they're going to beat Minnesota at home. 10-0 gets them into that Clemson game. Their toughest test during that stretch are, of course, the road game at Pittsburgh, a road game at Georgia Tech, who did not look bad against Louisville and has UNC's number right now. I know they've got a game against Miami in there as well, but North Carolina has an opportunity to run the table during that time. If they're 10-0 going into Clemson, even 9-1 heading into that Clemson game, they will be in the hunt for a college football playoff berth. No doubt about it. And that Clemson game could kind of decide whether or not they make the ACC championship, or whether or not they are a true ACC or a college football playoff contender. Like, I don't want to get that far ahead of ourselves. We have a lot of football left to play, and you don't want to overreact after one game. But North Carolina's offense is going to be tough to stop. I'm not worried about that. And the defense looked way better than maybe any of us expected. And if they continue to play at that level, continue to wreak havoc in opposing backfields, continue to create pressure at the rate they did against South Carolina, there will not be many teams that can stop them. And a very strong 9-1, 10-0 start is not out of the question if they can get past a handful of tricky games like the Pittsburgh, Georgia Tech, Miami games that we mentioned, setting up a massive showdown in Death Valley late in November against Clemson. So love what Mac Brown's doing. Love this North Carolina team as of right now. And then finally, the Pac-12, like you mentioned, is without a doubt the best conference as it stands currently, going undefeated. No other team, no other conference can claim that. And they didn't just go undefeated against bad teams, right? They went undefeated against good teams. Utah taking down Florida, Colorado taking down TCU, USC obviously running the table very well. Washington even earning a 37-point victory over a good Boise State team. Overcame a slow start and just lit them up. Washington honestly might have the best offense in the country. Yes, even over the likes of USC, Oregon, guys like that. But USC, no slouch. Oregon dropped 81 on Portland State. Washington State went on the road and beat an improving Colorado State team. I mean, everywhere you look, the Pac-12 just looked really, really good. And we've been saying that all offseason long about how good this conference is, how dangerous this conference is, and how entertaining it will be. And that's great for us as fans. But in a way, it's also bad for the Pac-12 too, because they might just beat up on each other so much that no team gets into the playoff. And that's an unfortunate thing, because I want one of these teams in the playoff, whether it's USC, Oregon, Washington, Utah. I don't care who it is. Colorado. I mean, I want to see a Pac-12 team get into the playoff in their last year of existence. I would love that. But the problem is they might beat up on each other. USC could beat Washington, who could beat Oregon, who could beat USC, who could beat Utah, who could beat Oregon again. There's just so many good teams. And the way the schedule stacks up, where it's one of those things where, again, a two-loss team isn't getting in. It's just not happening, especially with the way the SEC is, especially with the way the Big Ten East is, especially with the ACC. If Florida State were to come out of there, it's going to be tough. So you've got to hope that the Pac-12, as the year goes on, we have a true clear-cut contender as the heavy favorite, whether that's USC, Washington, Oregon, Utah, whoever it may be, and that Pac-12 needs to pick one and ride with them, because they're going to beat up on each other. You're going to see no team in the Pac-12 is going undefeated. I don't see that happening. At the best, someone's going 11-1, and that's at the best. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. They're entertaining. They're loaded with talent. I love this conference. Credit to them for what they did in week one. But can they get a team in the college football playoff? Another reason why I wish we had an expanded playoff this year, because we get multiple teams in this year if we had 12 teams. But last year of the 14 playoff, last year of the Pac-12, can they get a team in? That is the question. Great takeaways, great comments, great questions from College Football Guy. And week 2 predictions tomorrow. We're gonna hook you up. We got our week 5 under the radar games coming your way tomorrow. Week 2 still under the radar, still really good games. And then we have our 2 top 25 matchups: Alabama and Texas. That prediction coming out on Thursday. And then Tulane, Ole Miss coming out on Friday. Leave your thoughts for that in the comments, whether on Friday or here now. Does Tulane pull off the massive upset against Ole Miss in New Orleans? That is a big question and will be one of the top games on Saturday. So we're going to have all of those games covered. A lot of the games we talked about today covered starting tomorrow right here on the channel. Make sure you have that notification bell on so you don't miss out on that content, because, again, we're going to have you covered every step of the way, and we can't look forward to discussing those games with you. And Doggy says the Pac-12 succeeded where the SEC failed. yet the conference gets punished. What a twist of fate. Very much so. Very much so. Very hard to believe. Very unfortunate. Funny how things work. Funny what money and TV deals and media rights deals and incompetence can do to a conference and to a sport that we all love. Very, very, very unfortunate. With that, guys, I think we're going to wrap things up. Right about 2 hours with a great live stream tonight. We had some great engagement, great calls, great discussion. Week 1 was phenomenal, but week 2 even better. This slate is loaded. Illinois, Kansas, Notre Dame, NC State, Utah, Baylor, Nebraska, Colorado, Ole Miss, Tulane, A&M, Miami, Iowa, Iowa State, Oregon, Texas Tech, Texas, Alabama, UCF, Boise State, Wisconsin, Washington State, Auburn, California, and some others that we may not have even mentioned. This is going to be one hell of a week, and we are going to have you covered every step of the way, starting tomorrow with those week 2 predictions. We have our expert picks also on our website, thegridironexpert.com. So if you want these spread picks for all of these games, go up over there, sign up for those today. Again, if we reach our goal, we will do a 24-hour live stream. We want to do it. We want it bad. And more than anything, we want you guys to win with us. So go sign up for those today before week 2 starts. We're going to have you covered again every step of the way with big-time winners and big-time predictions. So from all of us here at the Gridiron Expert, I want to thank you to C. Glassman, Jerry Turner, Matt Ryan, A&M Miami prediction coming out tomorrow. Don't miss out. College football guy, Doggy, DM, Eddie Rose, Jerry Turner, Will Liu, Charles Lehigh, Mark, who else we got? Notre Dame Nation, Walter McKay, Matthew Hazelhorst, our man Ryan Dobis, that dude VP, another big North Carolina fan, Will Burrow, Mark TR, Anthony James, thank you again for that donation and that Venmo transfer earlier today. Joker NYC, our man Paxton, Sam, Flying Blind, Georgia's DM is Sam, Robert, Hunter 5657, Austin Pruitt, and everybody else that we may have missed tonight. We appreciate you, all of your support. Have a great rest of your night. Enjoy week 2. We'll be back with some more content right here at the Gridiron Expert tomorrow. But until then, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share the videos, sign up for the picks. You know the drill at this point. Have a great rest of your night, guys, and we'll see you back here tomorrow and again next Tuesday for another Gridiron Expert live stream.